Happy Saturday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to the SPL. We are in Week 7 of Phase 2, so we're really getting down the stretch here. SMITE Summer Masters just around the corner. I want to list a few things for you, though, to start off our day. Optimus, Liberty, Rib, SMITE Pro League, all things that are prime. And you at home can be prime as well, because here in the SPL, we're powered by Prime, and so are our deliveries, our in-game content, our free games every single month, all thanks to Prime. And so thanks to Prime for being with us here, and hopefully being with you in your home as well, and powering us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. My name is Dolson. Mifflin with me to start off this day. And Miff, I didn't totally steal the bit from you. The Rib part I did take from you, but the rest was my own doing. Do you know what Liberty Prime is from?
That's Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout 3. Yeah. I'm playing through it right now.
Wasn't that also on like Amazon Prime recently? I'm pretty sure.
Fallout 3, probably.
Yeah,
I have
so.
no idea. Anyway, Miff, we had a day of games yesterday that I figured might go the distance. I thought both of those sets were slated for 3 games. Both of them end up being 2-0s. And so it's a fast start to the week so far.
Has been, but I'm not sure I'm going to expect that to continue, right? We've got some pretty heavy slated matchups. Maybe not this one coming up immediately, but we're going to have some closer matches. So if you guys at home are hankering for a 3-game set, I don't think we're going to have to wait too much longer.
No, I don't think so either. Let's see what the matchups we've got for you, though, today. Remember, some roster drama across the league. Won't see that in our first set. The Oni Warriors up against the Valhalla Valkyries, and then the Solar Scarabs minus Scream plus Oath for this matchup, because Scream now the Jade Dragons jungler. So the Solar Scarabs with a new jungler today will be playing up against the Tartarus Titans in our second match of the week. And then Titans, Warriors, Valkyries all have their second match tomorrow, with the Oni Warriors going up against the Olympus Bolts. Now, yesterday the Leviathans with a 2-0 win over the Bolts did shift up the standings just a little bit. Remember, the Leviathans were a bit further down on the standings, but that's like that core 5 in the middle. Now kind of 6 with the Solar Scarabs on a bit of a resurgence, all within 1 or 2 games of one another. So the Leviathans jump up from 6. They put themselves in 4th, Jade Dragons, and the Titans looking to do some climbing. And really it's the Solar Scarabs, Myth, that I think I have to look at in the standings, because it was a team that finally started to get the wheels going a bit. And who knows what's going to happen now with the loss of Scream and the addition of Oath for this week, and long-term jungle solution still up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, the Solar Scarabs have very quickly become one of my favorite teams to watch in general, just because everybody loves a question mark. It's never fun to know the answers, right? You want to be surprised. You want to be, sucked in. With like media, if you're watching, you're like, man, I know what's going to happen. Like,
okay, fair enough.
Like Will's going to be the Fresh Prince tomorrow. Like, I get that. Like, Johnny Bravo is not going to get a girl. Like, I get that. When the Solar Scarabs play, you never know what's going to happen, and that's fun.
Right, that is fun, but we don't know what's going to happen with their team. I would assume their
fans.
And
that's fun.
No, I think their fans want some answers. We'll talk about them in our second set of the day. Our first matchup, though, the Oni Warriors against the Valhalla Valkyries. Now, the Oni Warriors, a team that if you look at the entire year, have made strides from where they were last year. A team that we had such high expectations for, didn't quite meet them in Season 8. Have finally started to figure out their play style, though, Myth. This is an Oni Warriors team that can truly take it to any team in the league. Still have moments of inconsistency, but not nearly as much as we saw in previous years. A much more formidable force towards the top of the standings in the SPL.
Yeah, I think that the Oni Warriors had a similar trajectory that we were expecting from the Scarabs, not to tie it all back in towards them, but originally a team that was struggling to find consistent performances, would once in a blue moon upset these higher seeds. Now, in the current season, has been seeing a bit more consistent success, has found a couple of win conditions that they can play through, whereas previously it almost felt like, is Nika doing well? If yes, maybe win. If no, we lose. Now it's, hey, QvoFred is a win condition. Dardez is popping off. He's got a crazy god pool. NeilMah has really found his own pacing. Vote has started to find a couple of solo kills over in the dual lane. So what used to be a team that was only really comprised of 1, maybe 2 threats, now is a 5-headed beast and is just incredibly entertaining to watch, because the Oni Warriors have got pretty unique god pools at that. I don't think anyone else in the league is really replicating what Dardez brings to mid, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love seeing this team just play their own style and have it work.
Yeah, that's a great point, because Dardez has been playing, yes, the Morrigans, the AMCs, Also been playing a little bit of Chiron mid. The Hera mid really stands out to me. No one else in the league is playing that, but Dardez has played it and looked pretty good on it. And think back to when this Oni Warriors team, when a lot of them were playing remote, didn't get their entire team in studio. When the Oni Warriors had their good sets, it's felt like it's been when Dardez has played those more Dardez-y style picks. And so I really like the trajectory that the Oni Warriors as a team are on, diversifying their win conditions and playing a bit more consistently. Now, a team that has a lot of growing to do in that area is the Oni Warriors' opponents today, the Valhalla Valkyries. There are a lot of conversations to be had around this squad. Worth noting today, Aquarius will be playing from home.
Is that Michael Phelps?
Which is a scary, that when Phelps had the hoodie on,
that was spooky.
You knew a gold medal was right around the corner. Look, the Valhalla Valkyries is a team, Myth. It's gotten to the point now where towards the end of Phase 2, there's always going to be a tough road for this squad. The conversation from minute 1 of Season 9 to up to now has been the little things, the little bits of growth are good for the Valhalla Valkyries. But that has not transferred itself into wins just yet. They're 0-10 so far in this phase, and the lows have not necessarily gotten less low. I mean, we've seen some growth in some areas, but Valkyries haven't been able to put it together consistently.
I mean, I'm going to quote myself from the last time I talked about one of Wowy's teams. It was Obey. Only one place to go when you're at the bottom, and it's up. So any improvement that we see from the Valhalla Valkyries is going to be significant, and I think we will likely, if this team can weather the storm and continue hanging out at this SPL level, will eventually hit an inflection point where they start to win a bit more consistently, or at least find a couple of stray wins. I think when you talk about the Valkyries, you have to kind of, I suppose, evaluate their trajectory throughout the SCC during their run there.
Yeah.
Back then, the competition in the SCC wasn't nearly as stiff as it is now, so I would argue that these guys were allowed to coast for a very, very long time, jump up into the SPL, and it's just a completely different environment. So now it's all about adapting. You're no longer the big dog on campus. I like to equate it a bit to being a senior in high school to going to freshman year in college, right? You either dominate the campus, and now all of a sudden you're nobody in the scene. The Valks need to have some tenure. They need to start seeing some victories in there. And then once that happens, once that confidence starts to build, I feel like this team has pieces that can evolve and can compete. We just have not seen it just yet.
Were you taking over the campus senior year of high school?
That's right.
You were?
Yeah.
You're the BMOC?
I don't know what that means,
the big man on campus?
That's right. Look, you're on the football team and you're a senior. I was having fun. I missed 80 days. They try to take me to court for being a truant. I didn't even show up to my court date,
Myth,
bro.
You're implicating yourself in something right now, so I'm gonna
statute of limitations, surely.
Look, when you're looking at the Valhalla Valkyries, you got to lean on some of that veteranship at the SPL level. One of the players that has been in the SPL, has played at this level, is Wowy, and we sat down with him prior to this matchup to hear his thoughts.
The mid-season patch changed the game completely. It made it so instead of you being able to kind of dominate early, get a lead and kind of snowball into late, it's a lot more nuanced right now. So it's a lot better team play. It's more about rotations, what your comps can do. It's just all about the 5v5, fighting around objectives and kind of getting to that point safely. So it's a lot different. With 2 weeks left in the phase, our team's pretty much, we've been losing a lot. So it's just kind of figuring out how to be better as a cohesive unit. I think we've kind of ironed out a lot of individual mistakes, but we are very, very lacking in terms of just us 5 as a core unit. So that's just what we're looking forward to, just trying to do is just fix what we can as a whole. So we're playing the Onis next week. I love playing those guys. I think they're very, very good. They're very good at team fighting. So we'll just look to kind of just iron out our team fights and then kind of bring our A game and hopefully out team fight them. So I think the Onis as a whole are pretty solid all around. I would say Kvo has some kind of weird games. I wouldn't say they're bad, but they're just a little bit, he's not completely on point. So I think sometimes Kvo can feel a little lackluster, but I don't think it's by any crazy amount, but yeah.
So I actually think, Myth, there is a decent bit to take out of that interview as we jump right into picks and bans for game number 1. I will say it feels like Wowy has been different from other players we've interviewed in the sense that if I'm remembering some interviews we had yesterday, a couple of the players we talked to didn't feel like the midseason patch changed that much at all. where Wowy might feel like it's changed the game completely. And so maybe depending on the way that you play the game, you feel like the update has changed things one way or another. And also Wowy thinking that their team fight has really got to be up to par here today to go up against the Oni Warriors, a team that Wowy feels like is one of the best in the league at team fighting.
I will throw Wowy a life preserver. I believe we had taken that interview before we had realized Bobble was removed from the game, and I think that will have greater implications on the meta as a whole.
That's true.
So he could have been right. I'm not willing to say one way or the other, but you know, we'll throw him that line. Yeah.
Right.
So yes, the meta has changed a little bit, but maybe not as much as Wowy makes out as compared to literally everyone else we talked to.
Right. But on the flip side, the other point that I really reached at there is feeling like you've got to step up in the team fight against this Oni Warriors team, which I absolutely agree with. Now, if you look at the picks and bans already, Khepri for NeilMah, a fantastic start. But then Daji for Qvo, and Daji has been such a unique style of pick for a couple junglers. I look at Lasbra on the Bolts and QvoFred for the Oni Warriors, where Daji, just expectations dialed up when I see specific players on this pick, and I think QvoFred one of those players.
Yeah, it's just that high damage output, the insane 1v1 potential that Daji brings to the late game. So often we see these Phoenix Sieges devolve into a 4v4 and a 1v1 between the jungles. Daji doesn't lose very many 1v1s, just has such high pressure in those scenarios. And then the ability to burn beads consistently in the team fight from your assassin is so important. So now it's going to be easier for Khepri to land these abducts. It's going to be easier for AMC to find value from these stingers as well. So Daji, a very dynamic pick, and one that I expect to see a lot of these other players, a lot of these other junglers start to look at a bit more often.
AMC will finish off the first three for the Oni Warriors. Kyrmi has only played Erlang Shen and Nemesis in the last 6 games, 3 of each. So the Erlang Shen banned out by the Oni Warriors. They have to assume at that point that Nem is going to be the first lock-in, followed by Ymir and Ravana, where on the flip side, Aquarius has not played any Ravana at all in the last 6 games, but in his career, surely very strong on this pick. And then a Ymir over in the duo lane for Gamma. Top 3 for the Valhalla Valkyries myth. One of the big notes from Wowy was team fighting, needing to have a good team fight. Do you think the first 3 at least give you a good opportunity for that?
I think so. You've built a very strong front line. This is the core of the Valkyries dive already selected in the top 3. Ymir's got some pretty nasty matchups. AMC and Khepri in particular are going to really struggle against that wall. Daji, even at times, has the ability to use that Trickster Spirit if an ally is nearby or even an enemy. Or the Pal-Out to avoid wall, but if you're getting that as Ymir, you're feeling really good. Ravana, one of the better picks in the AMC. You go in with a Mystic Rush. Very often the immediate answer from the B is just throw out the Stinger. Overhead kick is a mix-up option. Am I going into it immediately? Right. If yes, I just avoided the bulk of your damage. If no, right? You still at least can use it to disengage. But just having that threat is incredibly strong. This is curious, though, from the Oni Warriors. Ravana, the god we were already highlighting, is the direct counter matchup into Poseidon. Don't expect to see a Kraken hit Ravana just about ever, or if we do see this Ravana build, that mitigation style build, even if they are landing, it's really not doing a whole lot.
So you might then be picking the Poseidon for everyone else but the Ravana. I mean, Nem, Ymir are somewhat easy to drop that Kraken on top of, and then Whirlpool can slow down Nem on her way in and out of some of those fights. So the Oni Warriors have drafted both of their carries, their jungler, just looking for what we assume to be a solo laner outside of a weird mix-up here. But Nika's been relatively standard with his picks here as of late. Remember, start of the year was a lot of Bastet, some of those more unique assassin-y style solo laners. Kukulkan, Ardio, Cyrus, Xing, Ravana, those types have been there for Nika here as of late. So what are the Valhalla Valkyries looking towards? They need some carries on their side. Not going to be the Cupid or the Yu Huang. We've talked a little bit about Cupid and the rise that Cupid has had, something that I'm sure Wowy can play.
It's one of his favorites.
One of his favorites. And on the flip side, the Valks were worried about the magical ADCs for good reason. That's something Vote really enjoys playing. And so both the Oleron and the Freya will end up getting taken away. I do think this could be a non-conversation.
Yikes.
And that might be a Terra mid for
I think
BennyQ.
it is.
Do you think this could be an AMC mid with a Poseidon over in duo lane?
Likelihood is pretty high. I'd honestly hedge my bets that direction. I was going to wait because we know we've seen Poseidon over in the solo lane as well, so we'll get a bit more of a light shined on the Oni Warriors draft once this last pick comes through. Terra mid though for
yeah,
the
let's
Valkyries.
talk about Terra mid. Is it
seen
terrible?
We've seen it twice so far. Both losses for the Valks, but all games for the Valks have been losses just about. So hard to say that you can leave it at the feet of the Terra mid in particular. But what Terra brings is phenomenal team fight. If that's what Wowy was concerned about as in-game leader for the Valkyries, your 5-on-5 is pretty strong with this composition. The concern being, how well are you going to be able to match pressure against the Oni Warriors mid? If it is Poseidon, he's just going to have better clear and better rotation. If it's AMC, the exact same thing. So the Oni Warriors are in a position, I think, where if they so choose, they can elect to play exactly as if they were the Camelot Kings. Just play standard on the map, don't try and force fights early on, and by nature of their composition should be able to outscale just in neutral farm.
Right.
I am curious to see how it pans out. If the Valkyries do get to a 5-on-5 engagement, from even or even with like a 2,000 gold deficit, I think they have got potential with this composition to steamroll once they are grouped up. But it is going to be difficult to get there.
Now, I think it's worth a slight conversation. I don't know if we'll end up seeing it from BennyQ, but when I had the mid laner roundtable, talked about how Faye Blessed Hoops plus Terra can synergize together really well. You just spawn a bunch of the flowers, get your team a bunch of good shielding. You want the damage from Terra, though, so I don't know if that's the route that BennyQ will go. But he is a player that has talked about Terra and that item, so I'm opening up for the opportunity. And then Horus, I think, a unique conversation because that's something that feels like only Haddix has played. And I had the solo laner roundtable, and one of the QA questions was, when is anyone else going to be playing Horus out of solo? None of the other solo laners seemed to jump at it. Now, Nika wasn't sitting there that day, and so something a bit new here for the Oni Warriors. I think there is something to be said if you look at the Valhalla Valkyries for remaining curious with your playstyle, right? Trying to play unique things. I don't know if I'm sold, though, on the Terra mid. Heimdallr for Wowy does give you some safety later on. What phase of the game you think the Valhalla Valkyries are playing for here with this style of comp?
Whenever they can group up. If that comes in the mid game, that's what they're playing for. If it's got to wait all the way until 25, 30 minutes, that's what they're playing for. The Valkyries would love to bring team fights to neutral objectives where you can kind of funnel the aggression of the Oni Warriors and control how they're rotating on the map. The Oni Warriors, on the other hand, they've got a roughly standard composition. I think it will likely be the Poseidon over the duo lane, but when you look at the draft top to bottom, I mean, it's just a standard SMITE draft with weird placement of the gods.
Terra mid yet again for BennyQ. Will it find victory in game one? We'll go over to JMac and Trelly to find out.
Thank you so much, Dave. Game number one between the Valks and the Oni Warriors to kick off our Saturday of SMITE esports. And BennyQ going back to the Terra mid. We've seen this before, Trelly.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't do too well the last time that it came around. How do you kind of feel about it in the matchup that we're looking at right now with the Warriors?
Well, I love that you're asking me this because we just discussed it a little bit as we are seeing this pick locked in, and I said, when I think of picks that Terra enjoys going full damage into, I don't think of Poseidon, AMC, or Dodgy. All of those things are picks, you know, the cripples affecting her dash, you can't go full damage, but I think BennyQ realized that as well. He isn't going for the full damage, going into the tier 1 breastplate, so at least getting a little bit of Fizz D online. He knows he's going to be up against that AMC. Could be his dash could be stingered every single time if, you know, Dardez is playing it effectively, so you gotta watch out for that physical damage, and I think a pretty smart play given the fact that once those beads go down, QvoFred could also have a field day. I think, you know, despite the fact that we haven't seen the Terra mid work to that much success, they gotta be pulling it out for a reason. I just, you know, the healing, the damage is gonna be so great until late. There's definitely some application, but, you know, BennyQ's gonna have to get some defense online first.
Yeah, well, let's see what BennyQ can do with it this time around, because we do remember the previous time that he brought this out, didn't really get too much going in the early game. That led to a less than stellar mid and really a non-existent late game, because by that point the Valkyries are already too far behind. So we'll see if they can make amends to that against the Warriors today. I think Des may be right to also bring up the fact that we're seeing Horus solo not on Haddix. This is something that you were asking the solo laners just this past week.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if anyone was going to be playing it, and it looks like Nika is going to make use out of the Sky's ultimate late game, you know, move the team around. It's got incredible CC, and once you get Golden Blade online, your clear's not going to be the worst either, so should be able to sit just fine in that lane. Given the fact that you're up against the Robin, you know, the Death Toll build takes a bit before you can actually clear the wave effectively, so probably won't lose, you know, too much presence in that lane either. My eyes always went, whenever Kyrmi's on the map, my eyes always has to go to him, and respectively QvoFred. Whenever these junglers decide to get active, that's really when we're going to see some sparks fly. both of them, the Daji and the Nemesis, have some applications to try and find some early ganks. My mind goes to the solo lane, but also NeilMah on this Khepri's been poked out a few times, we've just been noticing, so maybe some presence over towards that duo lane. If anyone just steps up a little bit too far. The Khepri and Poseidon, they're sitting at the tower line. I don't think they're going to get too far out of this lane up until that purple buff spawns in.
Definitely not going to want to step up anytime soon. QvoFred lurking around the solo lane. Aquarius is standing right at that tier 1 tower line, but Kyrmi is right behind Aquarius, which means that it could be a 2v2 over this blue buff. Nika trying to get in, but it's been rooted. Finds the stun on Aquarius. Blue buff secured by Qvo. And not much further fight from the Valkyries. Now the buff is gone, not much more to fight over. Not seeing too much kill pressure at the least.
Yeah, but it looks like the totem diff will be going the side of the Valhalla Valkyries. Always nice to keep your eye on that. Just a little bit of MP5, especially when you have a Terra mid that's going to be having to use 3+ abilities just to clear a wave and not even get the last hits. I expect to see the Valks fall a little bit behind just because of the nature of not being able to last hit these minions. You know, BennyQ's it's gonna be a bit before he can full clear that wave. Even purchase the Chalice, needing that regen. And I think Dardez is playing this matchup exactly how you should. Just absolutely spam your abilities on Terra, make her life miserable. You know, get as much pressure as you can in that lane. Open yourself up to look for some possible ganks in the meantime. But at the moment, there's no real camps to go for. It's more so just confirm your own red buff. It's going to take a bit. Look for level 5. That's when we might see some sparks fly.
Yeah, I think level 5 is where everybody's kind of waiting to see where it'll strike. QvoFred, the first one to level 5 on the map, so we'll see if he decides to make his presence known in one of these lanes. Now, beads are up for BennyQ, so he should be safe, at least from the first powwow that comes through. The second one, that one will be up in the air. Kyrmi maybe could even be a potential target there. But kind of talking back about this, this Ravana, you're asking the soul laners about it. They were kind of talking maybe Ravana a bit kind of on the downward trend, just because now you can't buy that Lona's Mask and the Sigil like you used to be able to at that old mitigation style build.
I'm mad about how the solo lane talk went, because I feel like they were trying to hold some strats back. I don't think Ravana's as bad as they were saying. But
goes in, finds Gamma, Kraken not available, but does manage to find a couple of the chains, pulls Gamma right back in, but a good freeze will stop the 1,000 cuts. Is that enough to stop them out? The Rising Dawn and the root from Neil will be enough damage to close it out. First blood goes over to the Warriors, almost one for the Valkyries on the right side of the map, but Nika able to find his way out.
Wow, great play from the Warriors there. I like where Kyrmi's head was. You recognize your dual lane's getting ganked. Gamma doesn't have the beads and didn't quite get Shards of Ice online. And Dardez is actually going to make the rotation over, trying to help out at the blue buff.
Stinger thrown out, but looks like it was just missed by Dardez. So the blue buff still secured, at least for the Valhalla Valkyries. So not losing out on anything. Only thing that ended up getting used was Nika's ultimate on the right side.
Yeah, so the gank went through. Obviously, Gamma almost made it out, but NeilMah, he doesn't miss those. He was able to make sure to confirm the kill and get first blood. We're in a meta where getting some kills on your support isn't the best. Back when you were seeing the Fenrirs and the Circuits and like the Hercules supports, yeah, you want your first blood to be on the support. Sure, they can carry the game away, but Neil, he'll finish that Gauntlet of Thieves a little bit earlier. Now BennyQ could be in some trouble, but stunned out 1,000 cuts should be just fine.
Yeah, Qvo will at least get a little bit further damage. Put BennyQ a little bit lower, but he'll be fine on the Terra. Tier 2 breastplate gives him enough physical defense to deal with Dardez and Qvo this early on. But a purple buff invade. The pressure continues for the Oni Warriors. Not only a first blood in that dual lane, but now a purple buff steal will put the Oni Warriors about 700 gold up in the lead. So most of that coming from that first blood bounty. But the experience is where it's really starting to hit at. Nearly 2,000 already for the Warriors.
Oh, that's a fed bug. I can't wait to see Neil build into some damage now and just
if only, man.
And just use that.
Oh, Rising Dawn hits for 16 a tick.
Oh man, it's gonna be absolutely swinging. I actually did pick up the Ward Chalice there, so it looks like Neil recognized that he had a little bit of extra gold in hand and was like, might as well. Now his ward game is gonna be even stronger. Won't have to spend too much money on that. And you can use that extra gold to upgrade your relics. Should be a good option as the game goes on. That upgraded Heavenly Wings is gonna help out so much up against Kyrmi. Nemesis essentially slows and auto attacks. Once you sprint out, you're not gonna care too much about that.
Oh, Kraken just off the mark. Bifrost managed to get Wowy out of there just in time. But actually talking about that Ward Chalice, it's something that we don't see very often, Charlie. Do you think this is just because Neil had the extra gold to spend that he buys this, or do you think that Neil maybe bought this anyways?
No, I think you only are purchasing that whenever you get a first blood bounty, because if you got to think about power spikes, you're looking at Gamma, who finished Gauntlet of Thieves about the same time because of that purchase. If you're putting yourself that far behind, your stacks are going to be late, then you're upgrading your relics late, and then your whole team fight is behind. Once again, the blue buff looked at. This time Aquarius is able to take it, but Kyrmi's diving this.
Ultimate ultimate up. Kyrmi doesn't have beads, neither does Gamma. Needs that third chain to hit Qvo, or we'll just use them to get out instead. Pulls in the one target, and thankfully for him, Nika was standing under the tier 2 tower for an easy teleport out. That's an ult for ult out of the junglers.
Yeah, and it was getting a bit aggressive there, and it looks like possibly wanted to invade that speed buff, but Kyrmi wasn't able to find the kill and decided to back off, and QvoFred will be able to confirm his own speed buff, so not for lack of trying. And it looks like the Valks are trying to get active as much as possible. We did hear from Wowy in that pregame interview. You want to get active early, you want to try to find a kill. Gamma almost had an opportunity to find the beads on the boat, but Kyrmi gets stingered.
Kyrmi will make his way out. That stinger does get a reset for Dardez now, so he'll have that back up in just a few seconds for the next team fight. But the Oracle Harpies do go to the Valkyries. It means they've got vision around the Gold Fury. And this is the portion of the game that we always talk about with the Valkyries. You know, this is where they've been improving, has been this early game. If they can make their way through the early game, then they have that opportunity to really get to that team fight stage later on.
Yeah, it's just going to be about finding some consistent picks. And at the moment, the Valks have not been able to find those consistent picks, not for a lack of trying, though. Kyrmi did opt to go for the stone-cutting sword, so going to help out the physical damage dealers a bit, get a little bit of extra DPS online, skip out on that golden blade, and just try to get active as much as possible. 2 levels down in the jungle, though, is Kyrmi for trying to get active so much. Like this, for example, looking for Nika.
Nika uses the skies and gets out just in time. Couple more basics out of Kyrmi would have spelled doom for the Horus solo. QvoFred rotates over just to grab the Serpent Camp, but ultimate at Kyrmi yet again. QvoFred with his ultimate and 3 chasing has a great opportunity to fight back in because of the wall. Forced up into the Powwow, does find 2 of them with the ultimate. We'll use the Powwow to pull them back in. Dardez with a stinger, Kyrmi low, and one more shot will take it down. Kyrmi teleports in, and Aquarius used his ult to try and disengage, but the sprint has been popped by Neil, but a better wall will hold off a couple, but 2 members able to get past. Nika and QvoFred on top of Gamma to find the double kill for the jungler.
Where do you get team play like this? Vote is here. The Poseidon has made his presence known, and now Qvo is diving Aquarius. He's close to the tier 2 tower, but it's going to take a bit.
No, Aquarius is gone. Triple kill for QvoFred off the back of the full team fight out of the Oni Warriors. Everybody showing up on the right side to make sure that they can pull up a lead.
Look, I know Poseidon is fast. I know Doom Orb is called Zoom Orb, but there's no reason that the Poseidon should be there. I mean, I get it. The Oni Warriors are trying to push this lead as fast as possible. Vote clears the way very quickly and then can go over and help out the fight. And look, he's already back. He just pops his trident and runs. That's an insane rotation just to make sure. And it was a great wall from Gamma. Was not enough to save the rest of the team. 4 kills ahead, 3-0, and the triple kill for QvoFred. And Kyrmi's not done, though. He's still trying to get aggressive as much as possible, looking for this purple buff. Try and try again. The lead's not that big.
No. Now the Vote recognizes that Wowy is here. Surely he knows that Kyrmi is standing around the corner. Blink ult by Kyrmi. Vote's got Kraken. We'll use it to force Kyrmi away at the very least. Bede's now down by Vote in a rotation from Neil a little bit later on. The Oni Warriors 4 kills up, about a 1,600 or so gold lead, and add a little bit more as the Trebuchet takes down the tier 1 solo lane tower. Nika not really winning these 1v1 trades against Aquarius as Death's Toll Soul Leader Ravana seems to be getting the better end of the Horus.
Yeah, surprisingly, if you stack a bunch of sustain into no anti-heal, the Horus is not going to be able to outtrade you too well as the game goes on. Interestingly enough, an item that we don't see too often, BennyQ, is going into the tier 2 Rod of Asclepius, the Rod of Healing. It's a pretty stacked item. You get a couple stats for it. You don't really have to upgrade if you don't want to, but it will help out the sustain from the rest of the team. The team fight will be better. You get a little bit of extra damage as well. The survivability of BennyQ seems to be on his mind with those first 2 items, with the breastplate and that Rod of Asclepius. It's going to help out as the game goes on, but you are missing one big factor, and that's the burst damage aspect of your mid lane.
Qvo goes in, finds some horrible burns up against BennyQ, but Benny will be able to dash his way out. Now an ultimate in from Nika towards the mid lane to keep this fight going. BennyQ stunned, BennyQ knocked up, but all that physical defense that he stacked on early up in the game starting to pay dividends for him. Nika not really doing as much damage as he'd hoped.
Yeah, it seemed like the rest of the team didn't really want to dive that, and probably a smart play. Even with NeilMah, even with that Scarab's Blessing, just didn't seem like it. Now BennyQ pulled in once again, and now he's gone.
Well, you know, defense is nice until there's 4 people surrounding you, and then it's not so much, especially when you got a stinger in your backside. Dardez able to help pick up that kill for his jungler, QvoFred. 4-0 to start this game out. And Charlie, we're only 12 minutes in.
Yeah, the first gank comes through, Benny said, I can shake that one off. Even through the beads this time, BennyQ's not going to be able to live that second gank. Just too much damage, and Pyromancer should be falling here shortly as well. Didn't even need the full-on rotation from Vote to confirm that one, and now it looks like just even more gold going into the pockets of the Oni Warriors. This has been a completely action-packed game. It wasn't like there was ever a time where it was just sit back and farming. The Valks were getting aggressive as much as they could. The Oni Warriors have been re-engaging quite well and making some good use out of this To The Skies ultimate has been Nika. Not really for the rest of the team, more so just using himself to traverse the map, but you know, when you don't expect a solo laner to be there, then suddenly he's under your tower, it is going to make you play a little bit differently.
We'll see Breastplate picked up by Nika. Wowy gets away from the Kraken and will still stick around. Gem on the way. Purple buff does get dropped by the Valkyries. A tick of the Gjallarhorn, enough to steal that one out. Not the end of the world for Vote. Wowy's not able to pick that one up. But Kyrmi here makes it a 3v2. Ultimate on towards NeilMah, but a good route will lock Kyrmi away. A wall will stop Neil from retreating, but that's just called for the Oni Warriors to maybe go back in. Nika is on the left side of the map. Gold Fury could be in the eye of interest for the Oni Warriors. With all their players on the side of the map, I wouldn't be surprised if they went for a pull here, Trelly.
Yeah, Aquarius has the teleport, but hasn't upgraded it yet and is now channeling his back. He'll try to get here as quickly as possible, but the Kraken's not going to be available for confirm.
Gamma's here. Wowy and Kyrmi blinking to the backline by Nika to slow Wowy down. Gamma still tries to get in there to grab this one away. Gold Fury gets coin tossed, but it goes to the Oni Warriors. The Pow Lao will pull Kyrmi, and Nika is low, uses the skies to go back in. Kyrmi gone, and Nika able to find his way out of the team fight. QvoFred gets knocked up as soon as he goes in. It's a 1v1 against Wowy, and he's going to win that one. QvoFred finds a kill, finds a double kill, taking down Gamma. Now Aquarius in danger. QvoFred should go down here, but there's just not enough damage. He makes it out.
I cannot believe the juke shoes that Qvo just had. I was sort of holding my breath. Dardez is not going to let BennyQ get out for free here, as it looks like maybe NeilMah is going to try to gank around side. I don't think too much damage is going to continue because Dardez and Vote can't really close this gap, but the pull into the Kraken finally comes back up.
And down.
And the Stinger to confirm the kill onto BennyQ. 10-0 for the Oni Warriors. At only 14 minutes, by the way. Both objectives, 7,000 gold. And I hate to say it, but I don't think we're going to get to see too much value from the Terra mid once again, because not off to the great start. It just takes too long to get itemized. Itemized. That's the word.
Itemized. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, Charlie, I've also got some bad news, maybe for some Valkyries fans out there. That's a 4-level difference in the jungle. QvoFred level 15. Kyrmi just ticked over to level 11, so closer to maybe a 5-level lead. QvoFred 6-0 on the dodgy so far this game. And this is why so many times when we see these Oni Warriors teams go up against any other team in the SPL, what's one of the first two gods, usually the one god that gets banned away from them consistently? Dodgy and Morrigan. Morrigan gone, cool, they solved that problem. Good job of Valkyries, but you forgot about the other piece of the puzzle, which was Dodgy on QvoFred.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Dardez can play a lot of different picks. Like, it doesn't matter, even if you do ban out the Morrigan.
That's a good one for him, too.
Yeah, the AMC's working just fine. The Prot Shred, the Cripples have been helping out. Just getting enough pressure in that lane has just made the life very difficult for the Valhalla Valkyries. You know, looking into this late game portion, your one shining shimmer of hope is that, hey, Aquarius is even. Level 14 to level 14, right? That can't be so bad. Looking at the XP differential, at least he's staying relatively even in that solo lane. Itemization-wise, though, it's going to be a bit before Aquarius is able to match, you know, Nika's build, just because the gold, unfortunately, is not going to be as even as it would seem. It's only about 700. That's your smallest differential in the game at the moment, but still, it's going to start to add up.
Yeah, between Gold Fury, all 3 Tier 1 towers now taken away by the Oni Warriors. The Pyromancer earlier set to spawn in just about a minute. Means the Valkyries don't have much time before that gold gets another big spike over to the Warriors, assuming that the Warriors will be on that objective right away. So if you're the Valkyries at this point, where do you kind of play that lead? Do you try and utilize this at least even state that Aquarius is in, or do you just go for the pure farm game? Wowy has the beads to get through his own Bifrost to get back into the tower, but I mean, if you're the Valkyries, I mean, Charlie, where's your point that you come back in? Is it just hunker down and farm?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Wowy just lost beads and ult, so you're not playing on this side of the map anytime soon. Given the fact that Aqua has some decent XP, I mean, you got to try to get to Dardez or Vote, right? They're both so immobile. If you can force out those beads, there are still some kill opportunities. The unfortunate truth is, NeilMah's been on point, man. The Khepri ult is going to be there. Even if you do find a relic, there's a Scarab's Blessing in your way. This is what I'm talking about a steep hill to climb. Even if the Valhalla Valkyries can force out some relics, some ultimates, they have to go through so much in order to try and actually find a pick. They're down 0-10 at the moment, and it looks like the Warriors were sort of just getting some wards down. Votes here. This could be a pick onto Aquarius or a Fire Giant pull. I don't know which.
This is just a death ball march for the Oni Warriors to find Aquarius. They're going to get everything they can from this Ravana before maybe going for a commit. Ultimate by QvoFred will pull back Aquarius. And that's a 7th one on the board for the jungler of the Oni Warriors. Wow, we're going to split push, and that'll help out a bit. Get some more gold over for the rest of the team. The problem is that there's a Fire and a Pyromancer up, and nobody on the Warriors nobody on the Valkyries, I should say, willing to step up to the Oni Warriors. The Fire Giant will go freely to all 5, and add a Pyromancer right after. This is dangerous waters that the Valkyries are going to have to be swimming in now.
Yeah, when you said it's the 7th one on the board, I thought you were going to say for the Warriors. No,
that's for Qvo.
That's just for QvoFred, the Dodgy 7-0. The rest of the team has 4 other kills to their name, most of which on Dardez. So it's just been an unfortunate series of events. We know Wowy's beats ults down, not enough damage. A Trickster Spirit is not going to be able to reach that far, so Wowy teleports away, but Dardez is here as well.
Gets met with a Stinger, a Whirlpool, a Tidal Wave. Everything that could be going wrong for Wowy in that situation does. Gets his backstop, gets spotted out right at the Bifrost, and the Oni Warriors will add another kill to their column. 12-0 total for the Oni Warriors. The Valkyries in dangerous territories of being blanked by the Warriors in game number 1. A 7,700 gold difference, and even more once this tier 2 tower goes down. Might take a few seconds without those minions there, but everybody rather healthy on the side of the Warriors for this left side push.
Yeah, Nika does seem to be channeling the back here, so maybe not a Phoenix Siege unless that teleport immediately gets upgraded, but the Trebuchet's on the way, so it looks like he will cancel it back and just continue to siege this Phoenix.
We have 3 versus 1, stun onto Aquarius, the pull immune by the overhead kick. And now it's 4 versus 5. Wowy just spawning back in, and with that, it seems the Oni Warriors may give up their full 5-man, I say that, but they're kind of backing themselves around back and forth in the jungle, and will now commit to the full team fight on the left side. This might be our best chance at a new full 5v5 matchup. What can the Valkyries do to slow this one down? They've got to get some damage on this Trebuchet, because otherwise the Warriors will just let it keep pelting away at the bird. Gamma goes in with the wall, gets stopped right away, finds a double freeze, gets knocked up. Nika will dash on out. The Kraken finds Gamma. The pow-low from Qvo will find Kyrmi and a couple of others, but some ults expended to try and get out. Nobody dragged in by Qvo.
And it looks like Neil is taking a little bit of damage here. Doesn't have the Scarab's Blessing, and doesn't choose to use it, I should say. And it looks like now, with the Trebuchet still chipping away, that Phoenix is extremely low, and Boat still wants to try and go for this. The health bars aren't looking that bad.
Yeah, the bird is so low. The Trebuchet, though, has disappeared. The last of its health expended to get that Phoenix down to about 20% HP. The Oni Warriors are all healthy. NeilMah, the only one really low on health. Nika now starting to fall down. He does find a stun up against Wowy. He gets the beads from the Hunter. The bird still stands. The Oni Warriors still stand. Nika going back in with the ultimate into the back line. Doesn't find the knock-up on Aquarius, but will find the slow after, and the overhead kick gets Aquarius out for only a moment longer, because now it's a full dive back in. Through the realms goes one. Dardez picks off Wowy, and QvoFred will land back safely with the rest of the team.
14-0, 1 bird down. It looks like the Oni Warriors are going to have to retreat here. Just so early to try and break the base, and it goes flawlessly for them. Still, no one is dead. You use some relics there. Maybe you overcommit a bit, but you got exactly what you came for. Now you're allowed to back up for absolute free. 0 bit of anti-heal on the side of the Valks, and it's starting to show. When Nika, just with Horus and the CAD shield, is able to completely sustain the team for 3 separate pushes onto this Phoenix, it's clearly starting to add up, and maybe you fend off 1, maybe you fend off 2, but that 3rd push is going to make sure to grab that Phoenix, and now the Oni Warriors are allowed to back up. It should be noted that the first Fire Giant, especially when it's before 20 minutes, is usually just for like tier 2 towers. Maybe you look at the Phoenix and you go, hey, maybe we can get it a little low. But the Oni Warriors, they were not scared. They were not able to really drop anything at that point, and the Valks weren't able to pick anything up either. So unfortunately, still 2-2 towers standing. One bird down, and the Oni Warriors have a little bit more time here. The Phoenix, or the Fire Giant, will run off in about 4 seconds and probably just get some vision down, go for the objective again, and we're at a point where one more FG probably ends this game.
I mean, we're at a 7-0 QvoFred for Dodgy. We're at 5-0 for Dardez on AMC. Everybody else at 1-0, 1-0, and 0-0, at least for Nika, but 11 assists to his name. And how many other players do you think at less than a quarter HP are utilizing Horus Ultimate to go back into the backline of the enemy in their own territory under their own Phoenix? Nika playing like a madman on this Horus today.
Yeah, with the CAD shield, no anti-heal, and just the shields from to the skies. I see no reason why Nika shouldn't be confident going in on this Horus. I mean, you just, there's no real damage threatening you at the moment. You're looking at, you know, maybe Kyrmi does a fair bit, and if Wowy can connect, get that kin size online, that would really start to help the DPS of the Valks. But besides that, you know, BennyQ is mostly using that ult defensively. We're seeing a little bit of CC for his team, but that was used at the start of the engage. So after all of the ults get wasted, I don't see anyone who's able to shred through Horus. We saw Neil get extremely low, and I joked about him getting the first blood and possibly building into some damage, and it does look like he's going for a little bit of lifesteal there, possibly a Soul Gem or a Pythags piece, just trying to help out the rest of his team. As Fire Giant has spawned back in the second one of the game at about 23 minutes, and it will go for absolute free to the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, Oni Warriors will grab that one, add an extra Pyromancer, so a nice extra boost of influx and gold to the Oni Warriors. And we've been seeing a couple of meditations pop up in the league, Trelly, but Gamma's going for the offhand one.
Yeah,
the cloak of
one.
the Avatar, getting
yeah.
that little knock-up. And if I'm not mistaken, it got a little bit of a buff this patch, too.
Yeah, trying to just get some extra CC for the team, I suppose. And if you can help your team with Peel, maybe it's going to be a little bit better than the cooldown resets. I imagine that's the mindset there for Gamma. At the very least, something you don't expect. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, I have to worry about the freeze from Ymir, but oh, I'm suddenly in the air. I didn't pre-beat that. I wasn't expecting it. That could be exactly what the Valks need right now to try and get them back into this game. Just try and put the Oni Warriors off their game, throw some wrenches in their plans. At the moment, though, running down mid lane is all of the Warriors, and Qvo seems to be just trying to push up left, still splitting apart the Valks a little bit, as that left side Phoenix is going to be respawning here shortly.
Left side Phoenix coming back, but only Phoenix is left for the Oni Warriors to take. With 4 grouped up in mid, at any point we could see Nika pull one of the genetic strats and teleport some minions to another side. A wall from Gamma will only lock in NeilMah. Into the backline is Aquarius, but he's in the middle of the 3 damage dealers. And Aquarius has not got the HP, he's not got the defense to deal with it, and neither is Wowy. Dardez finds a pick, the Kraken will grab Gamma and get the Aegis away, but Gamma's gonna be drug away. Does find a triple knockback with that meditation, but doesn't get anything more than that. 3 down on the Valkyries, and the Oni Warriors with a 17-0. Maybe could bump this up to 19 if they want to try and find Kyrmi and Benny before going down. They'll grab Kyrmi, erase Kyrmi. They'll find Benny and erase Benny. 19-0 in game number 1 for the Oni Warriors and the Valhalla Valkyries. A clean game from the Warriors.
I was hoping maybe one kill would come through. I mean, just something, some shimmering ray of hope for the Valks there, but there's not too much positives to go off of. They did try to get active early. It wasn't like they just let themselves get rolled over. They looked for fights. They just weren't able to confirm a single kill. They weren't able to fight at a single objective. You know, I did like that they sort of drew a line in the sand and said, we're going to fight for this, but they just didn't win any of those fights.
No, I mean, all of the pressure that we saw early on from the Valks was in the solo lane, try and get the blue buff taken down and then try and get the blue buff taken down. And, oh, hey, the blue buff is back up. Let's try and take that. But unfortunately, only panned out for him one time there. We'll see if the Valkyries can bounce back in game 2 or the Oni Warriors going to clean sweep it. We'll find out right after this break.
Oni Warriors in game number 1, not only with a 1-0 lead in the set, but with a lot to a 0 lead in the kill department as well. The Oni Warriors come out swinging in game number 1. Now, allow me to set the stage for you just really quick. The James Webb Space Telescope just started sending some pictures back from wherever in space it is. And so you zoom all the way into one tiny corner of the universe, and you can keep zooming in, and eventually you see a little silver spacecraft with a small alien in it. And you keep zooming in, and you're just wondering, what is this alien wearing? You're just looking at it. What in the world is it? And the James Webb Space Telescope sends you back pictures of exactly what this alien is wearing. And now it pivots to your house, and it zooms in on your setup. And there's no Alienware at your setup. How disappointed do you think the world is with you that the James Webb Space Telescope couldn't identify a single piece of Alienware gear at your setup? Now let's fix that. Let's make sure the world isn't shaming you on the public stage. Head on over to SMITEGame.com/Alienware and use code AWSMITE09. So whenever the James Webb Space Telescope finds you and finds your setup, you've got the best gear in the world, in the universe, at your desk, and you're playing on the same stuff as our pros and working on the same stuff that we are here as well. So thanks to Alienware for being with us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League, and given the Space Telescope something to look at, I suppose. Mifflin is with me to help break down game number 1. Miff, this is a tale as old as time, where it is such a dominating performance in the first game that it is almost difficult to break down, because from the start of this game until the end. Are you still laughing at the bit? Was the bit that good? It was good, thank you. There was something there, I just didn't really fully flesh it out. The Oni Warriors here in game 1, they looked unstoppable. The Valhalla Valkyries didn't have a leg to stand on, completely blanked in the kill feed. Just outclassed. I think simply outclassed in game 1. The strategy, the X's and O's, it was all there from the Warriors, and wasn't there from the Valks.
Yeah, look, I've started a couple of death segments in the past with the Valkyries where I just said, hey, this team got outclassed, and
is this another one?
It just might be. It was.
Well, because none of the picks were like specific comp counters, right? You didn't feel like.
I would argue the Valks had the comp counters. I really would. Like, Terra's okay into Poseidon. Robin's really good into Daji, Poseidon, and AMC. Nem's got some pretty decent chase down potential in the early game against some of these less mobile gods, specifically AMC and Poseidon. It just didn't quite work out whatsoever at any point of the game at all for the Valkyries, and everything did for the Oni Warriors. So hard to break down matches like this when it is as one-sided as that. I mean, I don't even have like a single kill for the Valkyries to talk about, where I could say, well, at least they were able to execute on this one time. Maybe they could look to repeat that in the next game. Literally, they got a scrap play on field and draft for that one.
Right. Yeah. Owen, whatever for everyone on the Valhalla Valkyries. Again, and I think that is where the worrying conversation comes in, because where we have seen growth for the Valks has been with, yes, they've lost, but at least A happened in this game. Yes, they lost, but at least B happened in this game, right? The Valks, they have a game like this where you can't say, well, at least this or that happened in this game, which is tough. And so when you're looking at a team trying to find benchmarks for improvement over the course of the year, having a game like that in game number 1, a bit disheartening, I'm sure, for themselves and their fans as well. The Oni Warriors didn't feel super pressed with that. Great composition from them, good team fighting. Didn't really even need a team fight, could just kind of walk at the Valhalla Valkyries. So for game number 2 for the Valks, I think it's about finding that identity, finding something that works. I admire the creativity from BennyQ. I think there were matchups of yore for this squad where something like the Terra mid could have worked. Think needs to be fleshed out a bit more, those styles of picks, before they're going to work here on the SPL stage.
Yeah, I would just like to see the Valkyries pick a lane and play through it, right? If you are struggling as mightily as they have been, pick somewhere on the map one guy where you just say, look, we're going to put you in the limelight, and we're going to make sure that you can at least yourself have the best game possible. And if it goes well enough, you've become our win condition.
Right.
Because right now, it feels like the responsibility is evenly spread across the Valhalla Valkyries. And I think that's okay for some teams that are performing at a very high level in every single individual role. But looking at that composition, looking at that match, it didn't feel like to me the Valkyries wanted to play through mid. It didn't look to me that they wanted to play through solo or the dual lane. It was, okay, our 5-on-5's okay. And when that becomes your entire strategy, especially against these teams like the Oni Warriors, the best players in the world, they'll say, okay, well, if you're aiming for the 5v5 and you're weak literally everywhere on the map, we're going to exploit you on the map.
Yeah, I mean, look at a team like the Kings, where even if game 1 of the set, big man Tings is the win condition, it's because the Kings have chosen BMT to be the win condition. Next game, it could be Twig. The game after that, it could be Netroid. Variety has been strong for that team. So the top teams, they may only have a couple win conditions in the game individually, but then when you look at the entire squad, it's because that's the choice they've made. Anywhere on the map can find success, and so for the Valks, it's about finding that maybe one lane at a time. Didn't quite have that in game number 1. Oni Warriors take game 1 into picks and bans for game 2. I think you got to ban the Daji. QvoFred absolutely steamrolled the Valks in game 1 on the Daji 8-0-9. And now back-to-back wins for Daji for QvoFred. One of them against the Scarabs, 5-1-10 last time you played that god. I think if you're the Oni Warriors, you do have an opportunity to get a bit creative here. Try out a composition, see if that style of play may work. Maybe Dardez wants to play something a bit more unique. I don't know, though. Chuckle's looking like a no-nonsense kind of guy right now, wanting to clean
My man's clocking in. He's trying to clock out right after this game.
That's right.
Look, Chernobog's still available, so maybe the Valkyries decide to dedicate their ban there. The Oni Warriors could flex it into either mid or ADC. Both have pretty decent pressure, great ability to rotate throughout the late game, so certainly a pick that the Valkyries are likely considering a ban towards right now. Generally just a very good ban in the SPL as a whole. Instead, targeted towards Dardez, AMC taken off the board. The Oni Warriors played through pressure in the previous game. AMC due in large part to the AMC rather. Chernobog won't bring as much pressure, but certainly not lacking, and certainly a much higher pick order pick. Like, everybody's going towards this in the first slot just because of the relative value of it. That late game scaling, the middling early game pressure, and just the ability to get involved anywhere on the map is phenomenal.
Morrigan, I would say a relatively unique pick for the Valhalla Valkyries. I don't picture... I'm not saying you can't play it, but if I think of the Valks and their styles of comps, something like the Morrigan for BennyQ, if it is indeed BennyQ, not the first thing to come to mind. Been a lot of the standard mages or the weird mid-esque picks, the Tsukiyomis, the Terras. So Morrigan, not only a bit standard, but a bit out of standard for the types of mages that BennyQ has played in the past. Xing, that's about as standard as it gets as far as the SPL goes. Aquarius hasn't played much of it, but could be a strong pick for Gamma, a bit more safety, especially if he's getting run down. Now, it is hard to glean too much as far as long-term success from the types of picks that we saw in Game 1 for the Oni Warriors because it was just such a steamroll type game. You need to see it more often. Did like the Horus look for Nika. Again, it's just been Haddock's here as of late, but if Nika adds that, it is a very dynamic pick, and interested to see if he can do it again if it is indeed a solo lane Horus.
Yeah, I mean, the ability to rotate throughout the entirety of the map. You're relatively safe in lane as well. I think Haddock's pioneered how you want to play the Horus in solo, and wouldn't be any surprise that a couple of other teams are saying, hey, we could just teleport to like a random Phoenix at any time and just blow it up. That's a pretty good strategy. I think the Oni Warriors, given the opportunity, will likely try and do the exact same thing. This Eset locked in, though, interesting. Could go towards mid. We've seen it in the duo lane a fair bit. If we want to talk about the SEC, you've seen it in the jungle. Only roles we're not really seeing it anymore. Support and solo seem to have fallen off a bit. But what it does bring is a whole lot of confirmation to your objectives. You've already got decent burn from the Chernobog. Likely will be building a little bit of crit towards the middle of that build. So Gold Furies, Pyromancers, all under pretty severe threat. If Eset is going towards mid, and I will think that it is, should allow you to play around either one of these neutral objectives. The Valks have got an unorthodox, non-standard mage from the Morrigan. Doesn't really match the pressure Eset brings, so mid-camp control should belong to the Oni Warriors, junglers notwithstanding. So curious to see how this one pans out. The Warriors have got a draft just with this Eset now, where they can up the pace of what we had seen in Game 1.
It's good to see Wowy in the Valks, and somewhat high spirits after game number 1. Again, I do think we've talked a lot about growth and finding win conditions, things like that. This team has been realistic with their growth, though. You know, as we've interviewed them before games, they've talked about the small things, the small boosts, working on. Right now, they're losing games by a lot. We want to lose games by a little. That's our next step, and then you progress that way. So, the team does seem to have a good head on its shoulders, trying to sift their way through one of the most competitive Pro Smite leagues we've had in years. Second wave of bans roll in. Hun Bat and Robin both taken away. Would think one jungle, one solo lane, but also can see Kyrmi on both of those picks. Cabrakan and Nemesis both off the board. Now, Cabrakan we saw mid a bit yesterday. That was Shinto, but don't think the Oni Warriors, to your point, missed. Still looking for a mid laner. And then Ratatoskr. Would love to see it out of solo lane. Rat has started to really make its ways through the SPL. Still has that rotation-esque style of play that the Horus has, and great initiation. So the Valks could form a team comp around that.
Decent transformation target for the Morrigan as well. A little bit of global presence for just about everywhere on the map, wherever this Ratatoskr does land. You've got a pretty aggressive, assuming support from the Xing. This is a high kill pressure dual lane, if that is the dual lane for the Valkyries. So this time around, they've got a lane that they can play through. Not certain that I'm willing to say that this Ratatoskr is headed to solo lane just yet. If it is in the jungle, could help out a good deal with that global presence again, just to close gap on things like the Sylvanus or things like the Chernobog. Even the Achilles, to a certain extent, if he's caught out in the jungle, could be a pretty easy target for a Ratatoskr if Kyrmi's piloting it. I think the Valkyries have got themselves a much better composition this time around. It is a lot more standard, a lot more data on how this draft should play. It's going to be difficult, especially in the mid lane. That tends to be the case when you have a Morrigan on your team. But having side lanes, or at least a side lane that should be able to establish pressure, it could act as just an arc stone for the Valkyries, somewhere they can lean on and just try and play through. Xing, Shen, and Cupid together. Maybe you're looking towards some purple buff invade, move in towards those oracles, and really start to leverage something into the mid game.
Well, Meph, seems like you get your wish here. Looks like Ratatoskr will be going into the jungle for Kyrmi. And this is a bit unique for Kyrmi, because as I mentioned going into that game, in the last 7 games we've seen Kyrmi. 4 Nemesis, 3 Erlang Shen in the last 7 games. So it has been those 2 picks only. And so the Erlang Shen banned out by the Oni Warriors, but then the Valks take away the Nemesis. So Kyrmi electing for something a bit new. And I think that's important. You know, Kyrmi has been, I think, a good mental for this team. But, you know, if the picks in the jungle haven't necessarily been the spark that you're looking for, try something new. Try something outside of the Nemesis and the Erlang Shen. Ratatoskr, very, very unique compared to those 2 picks. So I will express my support for the Ratatoskr and something new for the Valhalla Valkyries. And it looks like a pretty dynamic comp here for the Valks, something that they might be able to catch the Oni Warriors off guard with. That said, between Horus, Eset, Sylvanus, seems to be some good initiation for the Oni Warriors, and come team fight phase, might have a good look here in this game.
And I'm thinking that team fight phase is going to come pretty quickly for the Oni Warriors. Just about whenever this Eset gets circle protection and Pyromancer's up, those 2 stars align, and the Oni Warriors can create enough threat on the map to force the Valkyries to rotate through. I like both of these compositions a good deal. Yeah, they bought a disco ball. They're just having a good time back there.
That's got to be horrible for your eyes. Yeah. Lights out, and then just tons of screens.
Lights out, staring at these screens, plus disco ball and ratio.
That means nothing to me, Meph. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I forgot. You're off Twitter. We get it.
That's not what I was saying.
No social media.
Even on Twitter, I don't know what that means. Just kidding. I do know what that means. Anyway, I wish we had we used to have a disco ball in here, didn't we?
Maybe they took ours?
They took our disco ball. I could have sworn we had one.
I'd like the disco ball back, please.
No, they didn't take it, says production. I guess we never had one back here. I thought we did. All right. Looking forward to game number 2 here, Miff. After a game 1 like we had, it is hard not to favor the Oni Warriors, but I do think picks and ban-wise, as a different part of the game the Valkyries can improve on. The Valks have tried something unique again, but it's been more holistically unique. It's not just been BennyQ on something random out of mid. It's been the whole team trying something a bit different. And I express my support for it going into game 2.
I wish them the best. This is the most biased you're ever going to hear me on the desk. I would like to see the Valks win. Us at a game, regardless. Doesn't matter. I just want to see something succeed for this team because I know that they're trying week in and week out.
Yeah.
It's not easy to come in every single week and struggle as much as they have. They still get upset when they lose. When they win games, they look happy. So clearly their mentals are still in it. As long as they're there, they got a fan in me.
See if the Valhalla Valkyries have Myths back. Game number 2 between the Oni Warriors and the Valkyries starts right now.
Well, let's hope that the Valkyries can find that game win that they've been needing all phase long. Let's see if they can find that set win. But to be able to take the set, they've got to start it right here in game number 2 up against the Oni Warriors. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug hopping in, zooming in to game number 2. And not a whole lot of craziness really coming out of either of these two teams here. No picks going in oddball spots or anything like that,
Yeah,
Trelly. Everybody kind of sticking to rather normal here. I would say the only thing that's kind of been sticking out to me as of recent, and it's something that we talked with the Soul Eaters just a little bit, has kind of been the rise up of this Warriors. Actually, we've seen Nika gone now 2 games in a row.
Yeah, what the heck? Why do they keep going regular comps? I want to see something interesting. I want to see
SMITE boring league?
Yeah, what the heck? I wanted to see, possibly the Xing mid, the Morrigan support. Either way, that should be, the early pressure scenes with the Valks are going for. Whenever you have the Morrigan, double rat can always be a menace for the backline. You don't have too much damage because of this Horus solo, but with the Oni Warriors, they can position themselves so well and make sure their late game is just fine with the mobility of that pick alone. So I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. Another thing that the Valks got to realize here is there's a fair bit of healing on the side of the Oni Warriors. They didn't get anti-heal last time. Definitely came back to bite them a little bit. I imagine it will be prioritized this game for sure.
What do you classify as a fair bit? Because I see a Sylvanus, I see an Eset, I consider that a lot.
I mean, yeah, they had just the Horus with CAD shield last time, and that was too much healing for them to deal with. So, you have multiplied your healing. Someone better get Divine, someone better get Brawlers, at least a Curse Donk, something along those lines. And if you can see, Gamma already did start the Curse Donk, so at least Gamma realized, wait, they're healing things.
Yeah. They've got a lot of healing that's going to be a problem for us late game. So, Gamma trying to alleviate that early on. We'll see how early it takes him to actually fully upgrade that Ankh. I've been noticing when the supports have been going that, they've typically been getting around like that level 8, level 9 once their Thebes is done. NeilMah will go down to about half HP from the Heart Bomb. Gamma able to leap his way out. So pressure kind of even across the board. And that was something that was maybe lacking a little bit from the Valkyries last game, was being able to get pressure in not just one, but really any lanes.
Yeah, and it's going to be the main contention point this game, I think, just trying to get active on this Ratatoskr for Kyrmi specifically. Obviously, BennyQ could also turn to the Rat as well, as we highlighted, but, just trying to find some early pressure wherever you really can, because Ratatoskr is really good right now. For example, you can get your Acorn without having to back to base, whereas QvoFred has to leave the fight, leave the farm game for a bit to back and finish those items, so you'd think Kyrmi would try to get active and look for a possible invade, but not looking for a fight just yet, just trying to confirm that blue buff for Aquarius and just headbound back to his own speed buff. So not getting active. I think realizing Nika incredibly safe on this Horus pick with that dash. You can essentially just zoom wherever you need to. And as long as QvoFred's near, you don't have too much kill potential.
For now, dead even game, 2 minutes in. No real chances for a fight so far. It's mostly just been the wave clear. We've seen Wowy try and get aggressive with these heart bombs. They've been hitting Neil. Neil's been more often than not dragging them away from the wave to try and put anything up. You're trying to, yeah, it's on there.
Did you see? You didn't see that minion? The
ragdoll.
Yeah, the heart bomb threw the minion and he got like stuck on the wall. He was zooming there, so I was just gonna keep my eye on it for. But yeah, this doesn't look like a very high pressure duo lane to me. Gamma obviously started the Ankh, means he doesn't have a blink. He doesn't have anywhere to close gap and get aggressive. And, even if you do get aggressive, it's into a heart bomb, which early on is a decent kill opportunity, or a relic forcer, but level 5 is more so when I'd expect to get active. BennyQ has ult here, and does make the attempt, and it pays off. BennyQ steals away that rebel. I was gonna say,
just walked up casually and toot that.
Yeah, I mean, BennyQ has a lot of presence as a level 5 Mori. I don't think that the Oni Warriors wanted to fight that, so they're like, well, 50-50, and Benny wins though, so that we'll be able to get a little bit aggressive in the red buff and take that one away for himself.
So typically we've been seeing more so of the Ratatoskr in the solo lane, going for the thick bark Acorn. With Kyrmi going with the Ratatoskr in the jungle, what's maybe the Acorn option that he goes for here?
I mean, he's got to go the stun one, but I want to see crit, dart, and we get to see it right now. Yeah, just the Thistle Thorn. It's going to help with a massive stun onto NeilMah, and that's going to help this game.
NeilMah also with a hard bomb on him, could get stunned from that one. So the CC and the damage a little too much for the tree to handle. The Oni Warriors hand deliver their first death of the set so far to the Valhalla Valkyries to pick up first blood.
J-Mac, I hate to correct you, but Sylvanus is the guy on the tree. Grover's the tree.
True.
So, you know.
Well, he's piloting the tree, and the tree couldn't handle all the damage, so Sylvanus couldn't make it out.
I suppose, but if a Wheelix died, you wouldn't say Suku couldn't handle the damage. You would say,
No, because she's not always on Suku. He's always on Grover.
All right, so I guess we'll call that one a draw. Our mental jousting we just had, I'll call it a draw. Either way, NeilMah falls down. Hey, that's the first kill the Valks got this set.
Yeah, it is. It took 29 minutes to get there of gameplay. Took them till game number 2 to get it. Maybe they can find another one on NeilMah. But an ultimate in by vote will slow down that aggression. So this time around, the Valkyries will not find that pick on the support.
Yeah, and it looks like just the purple buff invade was the play. So I love this from the Valks. They have the gold lead about 1,000 in their favor off of that first blood, and they are not letting off the gas one bit. They're still trying to get as aggressive as they can. Look where Kyrmi is, already back into duo lane, looking for NeilMah once again.
Will find the stun again. This time sets up for the Fields of Love. NeilMah able to make it out this time around. The heal from the Wisps as well, giving just enough extra protection to get out of that one. I like where Kyrmi's head is at, but now that he's realized that maybe this gank won't work every single time, especially with Neil having his ultimate available now, do you think that Kyrmi tries again in duo, or do you think maybe he tries to put his pressure elsewhere?
Nah, with the Wrath of Terra up, I don't think the gank opportunity is going to be there. Just the sprint being used there was enough for Neil to say, hey, I survived this gank and I should be able to survive next gank. At the very least, Neil needs to watch himself for stepping up and just say, hey, are we going to see any sort of pressure? And you asked me a question last game about NeilMah's Ward Chalice, and I said, yeah, it's probably just because he got that first blood gold. I've been proven wrong. Neil buys it again, even though he got first blooded. So he's got negative gold compared to last game, and he still is trying to put some pressure with that vision. Maybe just because of the fact that he's been ganked twice. Neil's like, you know what, I'm gonna need some wards this game. I'm gonna make sure that we've got that vision as well. So getting his money's worth and playing a little bit safer for it.
You know what I didn't check at the end on the post-game stats? I didn't see if Neil had most wards plays. Because if you buy a Chalice, you gotta guarantee that you're getting yourself top wards in the game. So
I don't know. Benny's got 3 at the moment. So Neil just jumped over to 4. That's massive.
That's value, baby.
We gotta keep our eyes onto this screen as much as possible because Gamma also picked up the Chalice.
Yeah, who cares about player damage, net worth, gold? We don't need that. Just keep the ward game up there. That's the most important thing. You know what they say? Wards win wars.
Yeah, I have heard that. As we get to see Kyrmi actually going for the invade, they're just trying to confirm his own buff, actually. It looked like the Warriors were trying to invade there, but they decided to back off. They were going a little bit furry. Gamma gets a beautiful pull and doesn't really get much for it. I was going to say, Gamma gets pulled. Man, my words today. Neil gets the pull. Gamma didn't really care. They sort of just switch spots as Neil tries to confirm his own purple buff here for Vote. But Wowy and Gamma, they're not giving this up for free.
No, but Kyrmi is on the way. Could be a pincer by the Valkyries. Kyrmi finds the stun, but ultimate by Neil will slow things down. Heart bomb, and then an ultimate from Gamma, using a lot to try and expend to kill NeilMah. Now the Fields of Love. Sprint will get popped. NeilMah will be fine, but the double dunk Ratatoskr is just too much. But it's a trade out, a 1-for-1, making now 2. The Oni Warriors are fighting back in. Dardez just off the mark with the Spirit Ball. Vote doesn't find the first auto, but now that BennyQ has been revealed, he will be dropped down. A double kill for Vote, and give one over to QvoFred, who finds the execute on a Gamma for a 4-for-1 trade.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I really thought that was going well for the Valks. They just are putting so much damage into Sylvanus, and I think that's the big issue here. If you are just using one ult, you know, 2 ults maybe to pick NeilMah, that's all well and good, but you're forgetting about the global pressions from Vote. He can join the fight whenever he needs to. Dardez makes a rotation over as well. And Qvo late to the party, but is still there to clean up that kill and get the execute onto Gamma. So the aggression from the Valks certainly punished, but gold lead, not so much in favor for the Warriors. It's close, but not as massive as you would think for kills in the lead. Yeah, about 2 gold differential at the moment, so it's actually climbed back ahead for the Valks. So massive answer back from the Warriors, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's going to make the Valks step off the gas any bit. They should still feel just as confident as ever.
Maybe not expend as much on NeilMah.
Yeah,
I mean, what was that? 4 ultimates used to get the kill on him, because they used, what did they use? They used Kyrmi's ultimate, they used Benny transformed and used the Rat ultimate on him. They used Wowy's, and they used Gamma. All of that to get a single kill. Meanwhile, the Warriors used all of their ults to get 4 kills. A little worrisome at the very least for the Valkyries, but I think you're right to highlight that they're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. The gold is right there, dead even at this point, 9 minutes in. Now it's just up to maybe the mental, at least, of the Valkyries to not let this one get to them.
Yeah, I would say so. And it looks like they are putting even more presence on that anti-heal as we highlighted early on. Kyrmi finishing the Brawler's beat stick. So still should be able to do a ton of damage to NeilMah if that's the plan, but again, we have to look for other highlights. BennyQ's getting the beats that he's so weak already.
Does manage to transform, get into the tree. BennyQ's still sticking around. I don't think he wants to stay in this fight. He'll use the rest of that through the Cosmos to get out. NeilMah just off the mark with that pull. Was aiming for what I imagine was probably going to be whoever was there was Gamma, Kyrmi, but doesn't find it. Gamma gets a knock up on Dardez. But it's all just to kind of keep people back. No deaths in the mid lane. A couple of ultimates used on both sides of that fight.
Yeah, it was a decent brawl there. You're forcing out BennyQ's ultimate and the bead, so gonna have to play a little bit safer for the next 2 minutes or so as Gamma also getting poked out. So the aggression has been mostly on the side of the Oni Warriors posturing for this red buff invade. His vote is also looking for a purple buff invaded by himself. Just trying to get as aggressive as possible. BennyQ steps up, doesn't have the beads, but Neil doesn't have the vision and doesn't have the pull just yet.
Red buff does get invaded. Gamma's got ultimate, but a silence, a spirit ball, a pull, all of that used, and finally will be enough to drop Gamma down. QvoFred leading the charge. Blink stun onto Kyrmi. Gets the beads from Wowy, but the execute just off the mark. Because of that, Kyrmi will make it out, but Wowy will not.
Yeah, Vote breaks the rotation over. Make sure to confirm that one. I wouldn't be surprised. The DPS would be slow. Circle protection's almost backing up. That doesn't look like they're grouping around this goal. If you're just trying to stop the Trebuchet from pushing, you don't want to get any more damage onto your tier 1 tower at this point. So it looks like the Oni Warriors are just happy with their 2 picks there. They're not going to go for that Gold Fury. It would be risky play given the fact that they have so much aggression, but Aquarius is level 12. He could always run over it very quickly. You just used a ton of ultimates there, so it would really just be circle protection as your DPS. But still getting aggressive onto this Greater Scorpion and fighting around this Pyromancer are the Oni Warriors.
Gamma no ult for a little while. NeilMah and Dardez both have theirs. Nika has joined the fray as well. A pull on a BennyQ. Spirit Ball, circle protection, and pop goes BennyQ. Gamma dashing away as fast as he can with his leaps, but Nika there to cut off the path and bring NeilMah with them. A double stun on top of Gamma makes for a double kill for Dardez.
Yeah, we saw that same style of play last game where Nika went for the ult underneath the tier 1 tower. This time it works out. It wasn't the gank re-gank. It was just the single gank. That's all it really took. And finally now, maybe some presence over towards that Gold Fury, because Nika is not going to be going over to his lane. He's going to be helping out for a bit. Actually teleports away, so doesn't want to rotate over to this Gold Fury. Doesn't think he needs that presence over here. And Wowy, he's too far away unless he like dashed in at this point. He's not making it that Gold Fury.
Kyrmi ults away. BennyQ ults in. A dunk by Qvo, or a dunk onto Qvo. Could turn around for a kill for the Valkyries because Qvo used the ult to go back in. Stun is good. BennyQ trying to close the gap. Does find the stun and quickly beats away from the silent. Spirit Ball connects. BennyQ does use the beads to get away there and will be fine for now. One more pick to the Valkyries, and a good one at that, picking up QvoFred.
Yeah, I can't blame Qvo for that play, honestly. He used the Fatal Strike to immune the knockup, and then he was like, wait, wasn't Kyrmi in Threshold? So 180s and tries to go for the kill opportunity. Doesn't land. It was more of a greed play, but it would have been one of those highlight plays if it landed.
Would have been sick.
Yeah, it would have been sick, but unfortunately Qvo gets shut down. The 2-0 gold goes away, and okay, I was going to say, Wowy ults nothing. I didn't even see Vote in the wall.
I was wondering. I thought I heard the noise. Wowy should go down here. There are 3 people here, and the Chernobog will fall. Wowy picks himself up a kill this game, and the Valkyries now with 4 to their name. But the gold lead for the Warriors has just been climbing up. Valkyries able to bring it back down just a little bit. Only 1,200 gold, and less than that in XP ahead for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, 2 shutdowns are going to go a long way, though. Vote was 3-0 there, and of course Qvo was 2-0. So a little bit of extra gold in the pockets of the Valks. You're getting some kills onto your carries. Obviously BennyQ and Wowy now have 1 to their name, so that's going to start to add up here. You're looking at power spikes. Spear of Desolation finish for BennyQ is going to mean this Morrigan is absolutely swinging, as Nika is just going to zoom away from Aquarius. Bellona, level 14, so has been getting some serious farm. If the Valks can group around Aqua and just say, hey, get your 2nd relic, upgrade that teleport, and start brawling with us, I think the fight could look pretty good for them.
Oh, NeilMah under fire. Kyrmi is tanking up the tower, and that is not the person that you want holding tower aggro when Vote shows up to the party. It's a tier 1 tower for 1. The Oni Warriors able to find a pick, but also able to find a Pyromancer because 3 people from the Valks were over on that left lane.
Yeah, just trying to dive that tower once again for a possible kill onto the support. I mean, just diving so hard for NeilMah. He's got Gauntlet of Thebes, he's got Sovereignty, Lotus Crown is on the way. This is a tanky tree. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to try and find any more kills on a Neil. And I think expending that much, tanking up tower, trying to go that far, has been, you know, biting the Valks time and time again. But, you know, you highlighted it, the gold lead not so far out of favor. The Oni Warriors are farming the map incredibly well, but you still have a level lead for Aqua. This Bellona still is a force to be reckoned with. Just hasn't been able to get active. Really just been boxing Horus all game. So once we do see Aquarius rotate in, maybe that you could look to see some deaths onto, you know, Dardez, who's 3-0, for example. A kill onto Eset would be absolutely massive here.
We'll have to see when Aquarius starts getting active. Neil maybe going for some revenge up against Wowy, walking up behind him, but not going to start a fight. QvoFred is the one in danger. The stun does connect onto the Achilles. Up in the tree goes BennyQ. Ultimate from Qvo. Gets himself out, but he gets dunked on. Shell holds him out for a little while longer. But Kyrmi still picks up the kill. NeilMah now surrounded by 4. Kyrmi goes into the backline, finds some damage up against Vote. Vote doesn't have beads or Aegis and will want to use this time to get out. Aquarius teleports into the ward. Nika teleports to the tower, and then right back to the rest of the team. A dunk in, a circle of protection. Aquarius still in the backline, gets the Aegis from Dardez.
And it looks like Vote is going to fly back in here. We're seeing an absolute brawl in the back camp.
NeilMah finds 4 with the ultimate. Dardez gets a silence on BennyQ, and BennyQ goes down to the damage from Nika. Gamma, half HP, but Dardez is the one who goes down next. Another kill for Kyrmi in the midst of this fight.
Yeah, but Oni Warriors have so much healing. The sustain is starting to add up. Vote is still pumping away auto attacks as the Valks are forced to retreat here.
Kyrmi, Wowy, both low. Aquarius at half HP as well. And he'll use the time to back. Nika finds the blink, finds the stun, finds the combo. And Vote puts down his enemy hunter. The Valkyries started so well in that fight, but that rotation from Nika was perfect to get back in.
Yeah, the Valks were just a little bit too deep there, and the amount of sustain was just starting to take its toll. I mean, you're looking at so much just from NeilMah alone. Then Nika makes the rotation in, and he's got plenty of healing as well. The Oni Fury hasn't even spawned in yet. That was just a brawl before the objective comes through. It looks like the Oni Warriors might be able to chop down this tier 2 tower even without minions. The minions had just died there with the backdoor protections were still allowed, so plenty of damage to get that one. So a massive swing of gold in favor for the Oni Warriors, and now should be able to grab these oracles as well to get some extra vision on the Oni Fury. Neil's still gonna sit here and steal these away.
Look at how much health that Neil has lost, taking just the obelisk away. I mean, that was 70% of his HP that he gave up to make sure that his team could grab every bit of obelisk farm. I'm pretty sure he got nearly a full obelisk worth just from the Valhalla Valkyries side of the map. That gets a trebuchet over towards the solo lane. Kyrmi goes in, finds a stun, some damage against Vote, but Vote not really deterred. Maybe now with BennyQ standing around, might at least slow them down. For the Valkyries, now with some pressure, some opportunity, maybe Nika finds 3 to bring inside with him. Circle protection drop, Dardez thrown back to the Oni Fury, and maybe back to the wolves of the Valhalla Valkyries. The double dunk in is too much damage for the mid laner. And now maybe too much CC for Nika as he gets popped in the fight.
Yeah, the Valkyries are still going to fight this. They don't care about the Oni Fury. QvoFred's the next target, and Kyrmi's dashing in.
It is 5 versus 3. It's still an opportunity for the Valkyries to take this Oni Fury, especially with QvoFred going back. NeilMah has an opportunity to steal, but he's not going to take that. He's going to go into the mid lane instead. And the Valkyries find a nice team fight and an objective. That's going to shore up the gold lead, 2,000 now.
That was beautifully played by Kyrmi. We saw him get super aggressive at the tier 2 tower. That was just because the Valks knew the Oni Fury spawning in. I'm going to try and stop Neil's back as long as possible. Then Nika was like, hey, they might be on the Fury. I'm going to ult all of us in. Unfortunately for Dardez, just did not have the beat, so was immediately picked up there by Gamma. The circle of protection was not enough to keep him alive because he was thrown out of the circle of protection. Should have called it a circle of lack of protection, because then Dardez goes down. Double dunk from the Valks. And, you know, once you dash in as a Horus, you don't have beads, you're in Fields of Love, you're probably going to be eating the full brunt of that damage and the rest of the DPS from the Valks. Just beautifully played. Now we're going to see a little bit of gold go back into their pockets.
Valkyries able to close up a little bit of that disparity that they were in with some nice picks against the Warriors and some decent objective play. Pyromancer about to respawn, and that could be another opportunity for the Valkyries to try and punch back and close up some more of that gold. Unfortunately for Aquarius, he is getting pincered right now. Vote and Qvo are here. An ultimate in by Kyrmi and an ultimate in by Aquarius will find some good damage onto Vote. He'll go into the wall for now, but Gamma is here and so is BennyQ. The dunks are just too much for the Oni Warriors to handle. The Fields of Love will take out Nika. The ultimate from Gamma will get the beads out of whoever can still even have some at this point. The Valkyries. This double Ratatoskr is just way too much for the Warriors to handle.
Yeah, the Oni Warriors cannot keep their carries alive at this point. Whenever you think one Rattle is down, BennyQ comes in with the second, and vice versa. The Valhalla Valkyries should be able to climb ahead with this Pyromancer, given that tier 1 tower dropping as well, unless Neil goes for the Miracle Steal here. He is on a ward, so I don't think that's going to be an option. We'll just Sentry Ward and back up. So I think, you know, evening up the game, definitely a strong suit here for the Valks. They're going to grab that tier 1 tower again. So now, even in the lead at this point, the XP in some avenues is looking rough. We just saw that Wowy ticked over to level 17, whereas Vote was already 17. BennyQ a level behind as well. But Aquarius, 2 levels up on the Bellona, has been out farming Nika pretty much all game, as he should. A Bellona should be able to just out-pressure the Horus for some time. And Kyrmi, 2 levels up in the jungle. This Ratatoskr, remember last game, the Dardez? We thought that Qvo was just this mountain that Kyrmi could never attempt to climb. At this point, Kyrmi's looking like the mountain.
I mean, a nice lead across the board for the Valhalla Valkyries. They've even got the gold back to their favor now. So with this is the momentum that the Valkyries need. This is what Wowy was talking about in that pregame interview of we need to work on our team fights. We need to make sure our team fights are the things that are stepping up. I'd say they're getting that team fight. Vote goes up into the sky, but who can he even go to at this point? There's no good target. NeilMah and Nika are here. A slow descent down, but as soon as he lands, he's got to use the Aegis. Doesn't have the beads. Gets thrown back, but the team is all around and rallying around Vote, but he doesn't make it through. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Nika tries to get out, but Neil will be able to limp back to the tower. And the Valkyries make a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, that's going to be a decent trade, but what are the Valks going to do after the fact? It looks like the Emperor's armor from Gamma is taking, and that's enough to make the Oni Warriors back off and let that tier 2 tower drop. Aquarius is here, but so tanky on that Bellona with the Spirit Robe passive. Not too much kill opportunity there, as QvoFred hasn't even made the rotation. He's just pushing down right lane, trying to get as much farm as possible. So the Valks have been looking extremely revitalized and been getting totally aggressive here. Maybe a little bit too much there for Kyrmi, wanting a cleaner kill, and with this Chernobog comes a lot of stall opportunity. You go up into the sky, you don't have to come down right away, you can hide in the wall. The one issue there, as you highlighted, there was no beads for Vote, so he wasn't able to get away from the Fields of Love or the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Easy kill potential there for the Valks.
He stayed up as long as he could. Unfortunately, teleport takes a little too long. Neil doesn't have actual mobility, aside from if he used a sprint to try and get there faster. So Vote still had to wait out all the damage that followed up immediately afterward. For now, the Valkyries have the lead. They've gotten only 2 towers left to have to take away from the Oni Warriors side of the map. And now stepping around for a Fire Giant. They've got decent pressure for this one. If they can find a pick onto somebody, maybe Dardez would be their best option. Because for now, Dardez, the one with the best secure on the map. Though there is BennyQ on the Morrigan, that means that they've also got an Eset if they want to go for this Fire Giant. Just like they are now. Half HP on the objective. BennyQ walks through the fire. NeilMah finds a pull onto BennyQ and gets the beads from the Morrigan. Nika stuck in the Fields of Love and will get a little bit of a shield to try and make it out. Just enough distance for BennyQ to close back in and find the dunk on the solo laner. BennyQ will de-transform, but not much to follow up as Dardez is being bullied by the frontliners of the Valkyries. Kyrmi finds QvoFred. Silence from Dardez keeps him alive a little while longer, but only long enough for Wowy to take him out.
Yeah, Kyrmi winning that 1v1 against Qvo on the backline was so massive. BennyQ also has that transformation whenever he needs to make sure to confirm those kills. So now 3 dead are the Warriors. The Valks should feel pretty confident here going for this, and I don't think anyone is going to be able to form any sort of defense here. Neil's just trying to farm left lane. Vote is on the way, but it looks like he's just trying to clear that right wave as Gamma plays zone duty. So for the first time in this set, the Valhalla Valkyries are going to grab themselves a Fire Giant back up, and they're going to start figuring out what they want to do with their offense. The Primal Fury has spawned in. That you got some time on Pyromancer as well, so there's a ton of gold for the Valks to claim. They already got the tier 2 in left, so I don't imagine they need to really care about that lane for quite some time. We're seeing all these power spikes on the right side of your map you purchased. Aquarius gets the Death's Embrace. The Pendulum gets upgraded for BennyQ. So much damage being unlocked. And I imagine Kyrmi's pretty close as well to getting access to that Bumba's Hammer if he so chooses.
And this has just been clean team fighting from the Valkyries. A stumble earlier on. You know, we can't discredit the fact that the Warriors have had some fights early on that have gone their way, but these last 3 team fights from the Valkyries have been much more calculated and mostly just been great capitalizing off of the Warriors. So now for the Warriors, Charlie, as they're staring down, you know, only 2 towers left to defend, so Phoenix is probably on the mind for the Valkyries at the very least. Where's the Warriors' avenue back in to try and slow this one down?
It's very difficult to try and keep their carries alive, but underneath the Phoenix, the Rattle loses some value. It's not like you're getting chased down through the jungle. You're pretty much just planted right underneath that Phoenix. So I think NeilMah needs to itemize into an Emperor's Armor as quickly as possible because Gamma already has it. Try and speed up that Phoenix if you can, and just stay bunkered up as one, use your healing. Once that Curse Taunt gets popped, you're probably backing up, right? I don't think you're spamming the Wisps and trying to help out your team. Once that Curse Taunt comes through, you're trying to bait that out as best as possible. It doesn't look like Neil's going to save up any gold for Empire, but just goes for the Sentinel's Embrace. Also a strong play. You get the aura protections from Gauntlet of Thieves, from the Lotus Crown with your Wisps, as well as upgrading to Haste and Wings. So it looks like Neil is on complete peel duty here for the Sylvanus, as he should be. Just trying to keep Dardez and Vote alive. They've been having some good damage, but 2 Ratatoskrs as well as Aquarius in the backline has been a nightmare for them to deal with.
I mean, all these dunks, whether it be from the Cosmos out of the Ratatoskr, from BennyQ transforming to the Ratatoskr, or these Eagles rallies from Aquarius, it's just been too much CC for the Oni Warriors to handle. There's only 3 people that have any sets of beads. That's Qvo, Dardez, and Vote. All of them now back online for this next fight. The Valkyries have been doing a good job of spacing out this CC. Bait out 1 relic. Okay, here comes the second Ratatoskr. Here comes the Bellona. The Valkyries are playing this one very slow. They take the last 2 towers standing with the wave pushed so far up in the left side of the map. And a minute and a half left on Fire Giant. Do you think the Valkyries try and push for this Phoenix one time, or do you think they just kind of give up their push here?
Well, they're certainly grouped up for it. I will say, given the fact that it's very rare that the Valks have a lead at this point in the game, that they might not be too confident just going in for a Phoenix until they have, you know, some sort of massive lead. If Kyrmi's able to push through mid, he already 1v1 Qvo once in that last team fight, so shouldn't be too afraid to try and chase down the Achilles once again. Split up the Oni Warriors as great as you can. A minute left on that Fire Giant buff. Just try and spread them thin as quickly as possible. You have 2 Rattles. You can traverse to any one of these Phoenixes in the snap of a finger.
5 and 3 for Kyrmi. Gamma in the back line. Finds 2 with the ultimate. Drops them both into the Fields of Love. But it was both of the frontliners. Nika not taking a whole lot of damage, about a quarter of his HP. Qvo in a 2v1. He was already losing the 1v1 to Kyrmi, but Kyrmi's not interested in the fight with Qvo. He's interested in the fight on the left side of the map. Will not dunk in aggressively under the Phoenix. Instead, we'll go back to regroup with the team on the outside of the tower.
Yeah, that is a massive win, though. The Ratatoskr ult is down. It does look like Qvo held on to the blink, but had to use the beads in that regard. So that's Fatal Strike, though. The execute is always a possibility.
Kyrmi and Benny in a 2v2 now up against Qvo and Nika. This one's going better for the Warriors. BennyQ transforms in and heads to the fight on the left side of the map. A dunk in by Nika, and a circle of protection will full heal Dardez. BennyQ used the Aegis, but as soon as it's worn off, he's been taken out. The left side Phoenix does fall, but QvoFred goes in, doesn't find the execute, but finds just enough damage against Wowy for Nika to pick up the kill.
Yeah, it looks like that triple heart bomb stun will be enough to make sure the rest of the Valks get out, unless someone's caught lazy backing. The Valhalla Valkyries do get that left side Phoenix, but BennyQ dunking in, trying to get out of that circle of protection, just takes way too much damage in the process. The Aegis is a little bit late, and you can't really use a relic when you're transforming back into the Morrigan from the Rat. So, you know, you use a lot, but you did get your 1 win. That left side bird is down. Now the Valks are in a position where they can look to try and get the next FG and use that presence to look for something, but they might have stayed a little bit too long here, as the Fire Giant's going to be spawning in shortly. The Oni Warriors, they're not cowering in fear. They're running to this objective as quickly as they can.
Kyrmi did walk over to the left lane to launch that Trebuchet, so it'll be Fire Minions plus a Trebuchet now pushing up the left side of the map. So that's the timer now for the Oni Warriors.
Benny can ult in,
They've got quite a bit to work with. The minions push so far up. BennyQ has respawned in, ultimate down for still a few seconds. Wowy just now landing, but it's the Oni Warriors who are already on the fire giant. Kyrmi blinks to the backline, finds a stun up against Vogue, gets knocked up, but a double Eagles rally is good. Circle protection dropped through and a curse knock as well. Not much value from the heal, and Nika will go into the backline, but it will not save Vote. He gets popped down. Dardez will go down as well. Kyrmi still fighting through. QvoFred barely has enough HP to live back through this. Will get a nice little shell for himself, but Kyrmi has found the double kill against NeilMah. Vote gets knocked up and gets knocked down. Nika, the only one left for the Warriors to defend against 5.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for BennyQ spawning back in there. It looks like Nika's in a 1v1 versus Kyrmi, but the Bumba's hammer is gonna start to play here. I don't think that Nika's gonna be able to get this kill in time. I don't even think he can get the kill. Looks like Kyrmi's winning this. The Valks, they're going for that Titan.
The Oni Warriors, a dominant game number 1. It was a 19-0 slugfest. Now a 19-14 kill for the Valhalla Valkyries in a game number 2 going their way to take us now to game number 3 for the Valks.
Yeah, Gamma played that so well as well. There was not too many beads that he had to go through. He was able to just pull the tanks into the fields of love while he was doing enough damage to threaten the front line as much as possible. And then, I mean, we highlighted it time and time again. The double Ratatoskr getting to the carries. Despite that one fumble underneath the Phoenix where it seemed like BennyQ jumped onto the full health circle of protection, they got the bird. They were able to use the Chernobog ult to get back from base of the Fire Giant fight and just clean that one up.
I mean, just clean team fighting around the board, at least for the Valhalla Valkyries. That nets them game number 2, and also gets them a friend in Myth and a fan of Myth at the very least here. We'll take it over to game number 3 right after this break.
The Valhalla Valkyries, in 8 straight sets prior to this, have been 2-0'd by their opponents. It has been 8 sets since the Valks have gotten a singular game win in one of their sets.
16 games.
And they have broken that streak now. They send us to a Game 3 up against the Oni Warriors. And honestly, come team fight time, it was a convincing performance. I thought the Oni Warriors had their footing in this game, Myth. There was the big effective trade by the Warriors around the Warriors' red buff. I thought that was going to be enough. But the way the Valkyries drafted gave them the ability to get active, to team fight, and set up the necessary players on that team to find a win.
Yeah, I really like how they allocated the pressure of their composition, the Valhalla Valkyries, that is. I'd call for, hey, just find a lane that you want to play through. The Valkyries chose duo lane. They got a very high kill pressure duo between Cupid and Xing, and they put Kyrmi on a god that could get active from about anywhere on the map. The global presence from Kyrmi, I think, made him look much different, was able to get over towards that duo, affects first blood, rotates back through a couple of times, make sure even when the Morrigan was struggling in lane, if she was receiving pressure, Kyrmi was there and ready to get up into the air and peel out for his teammate. I think the Valkyries did a very, very good job with their composition this time around, and I want to see exactly that again. Play through these side lanes. Put Aqua on something that could just hold his own and AFK in the lane and soak up that farm, and then have you play through your veteran duo with Wowy. Have Kyrmi get something that he could just participate in consistently, because the Valkyries legitimately just do look different. It was an all-in style of composition. Very often it was a global transformation from Benny, usually into the Ratatoskr, dives the backline. If it worked out for Benny, phenomenal. If it didn't, Kyrmi was there, and he made it work himself.
Double dive.
Just clean stuff. And it's similar to what we had seen from the Scarabs up against the Camelot Kings. If you're not able to win out on neutral farm, you win out by dragging the enemy team into your own pace of game.
Right.
And in a mud battle, the Valkyries have more experience than the Oni Warriors.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's been far from Kyrmi's fault that the Valks have had their struggles. But I'm echoing a thought that I had during picks and bans for Game 2, where it's been only Nem and Erlang-Shen. It's been only those 2 picks. Giving Kyrmi something through the ultimate that just makes diving unavoidable, right? I think was a good look. Inevitable, right? Arrives all the same. And Kyrmi just really impressed me here this game. Wowy did as well, because Wowy has not been immune to criticism from us and the dual lane in general for the Valhalla Valkyries. Has had a tough time getting the pace set for this team. And the Cupid looked fantastic. Again, yes, a lot of help from Kyrmi getting that lane going. But when the ball is served to you and you're able to hit it, get your team a run, that's exactly what Wowy's able to do here. And so I love the way the Valkyries have played now. Now to me, we have to be realistic on 2 fronts, because for the Valks, what we've been preaching is small wins, little things here and there. Getting a win up against the Oni Warriors, that's a victory for this team, and I think they'll see it as such as well. But on the flip side, what I would hate to see now is a regression back to Game 1, where the Oni Warriors staggered a bit, they recenter themselves, and just blow out the Valks here in Game 3. If the Valks lose here in Game 3, I at least want it to be a competitive loss. You know, I don't want to see a regression.
They can't get blanks again.
Right. I don't want to see a blanking like we saw in Game 1. Play off of what you just did in Game 2.
You just build upon it. There are other solutions. If the Oni Warriors so choose, could ban the Ratatoskr, and they do. I think they're right to do it. That was the keystone of the Valk's composition. Kyrmi top damage, getting involved everywhere on the map. Make sure that every bit of aggression was rooted through him. But there are other ways for Kyrmi to do that exact same thing. Global presence is not exclusive to Ratatoskr, and I think that's what made it work for him, was the ability to get global. Thor is an answer, Thanatos is an answer, the ability to just rotate throughout the map and have your presence be something the Oni Warriors need to concern themselves with at every single turn. Is Thor worse than Rat right now? Yes. Is Thanatos harder to perform on than Rat is? Absolutely. But I think just finding that key that worked for you is still replicatable, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Valks look towards something like that. That's not to say that he can't go back towards his standards like Erlang-Shen and Nemesis, but I don't think I want to see that.
It made unlocking the potential of that comp just easier for Kyrmi, right? Easier to execute when you can just dunk into the backline, and that's it. Your gank is using your ult and getting in there. Kyrmi absolutely capable on the Erlang-Shens, the Nemesis, but taking away something that worked in game 2, maybe moving it to game 3 is what the Valkyries are mindful of
No
here.
one passes our
Oni
crest.
Warriors are as well. The Morrigan was the first overall pick for BennyQ, matching, one Ratatoskr is annoying enough. The double dunk from the damage Ratatoskr, just too much for the Oni Warriors, so the Morrigan at least will get taken away. And that does make the Valks have to think now, what are we willing to pick for ourselves? Yes, but also give the Oni Warriors come team fight time.
You know, I'm glad the Morrigan is still a topic of conversation. For Dardez, of course, one that he is very capable of playing. I did want to point out that Benny goes for a strange build. Not often we see the Morrigan missing 2 core items. Magi seems to just be blanket statement needed on the Morrigan to close that gap, and Polynomicon to shore up that burst damage. He elects to go for neither. Instead, I feel like the majority of Benny's contribution in game 2 was just in that transform. I expect to see a bit more from the Oni Warriors Morrigan in base stance. Of course, you could still get active, transform into Osiris and be that menace in the back line, or transform into a Nemesis or a Chernobog and get active on the map. Right. But as far as playing the Morrigan herself, I expect more from Dardez than I did from Benny in the previous match. Osiris and Chernobog for the Valkyries as their top 2 selection. Osiris likely headed for the jungle. Mannequin Scepter can get involved early on. Will be a little bit more difficult for him to get involved in that duo lane in particular. Just that global presence makes everything so much easier, especially on that side of the map. But still can go towards Blink, has a decent matchup into the Morrigan. Tether chases down the stealth. Mannequin Scepter makes sure that she can never really stealth. That dot damage will knock her out of it pretty quickly as well. But the downside being, now Osiris more telegraphed in his initiation. Blinks in, he's going to hit the first guy he sees regardless. Doesn't have much dive outside of that. I mean, you could use the ultimate to go in further, but that's also your primary escape tool. And when your damage is single target, makes it pretty easy for the Khepri to figure out who he's going to revive.
Yep, like the Valks though, going back to this Cupid, but again, it's facilitating it now, but still unique in their composition. The Osiris, the Chernobog, and the Cupid. So one of those will go mid, one of those will go duo. Could also see Chern solo. That's something teams across the league have played a bit here as well. And so options abound for the Valhalla Valkyries moving in to game number 3 here. Whereas it looks like the Oni Warriors a bit more standard in their drafting. Gonna take away the Ganesh and the Ardio stuck around, so that's the Oni Warriors maybe feeling like Kyrmi be on this Osiris. And then Kabrakan for the Valkyries. Looks like aggression might be the name of the game here for the Valksmith. Don't have that same, outside of Chernobog, of course, that same, jungle semi-global presence. Chernobog will be able to rotate into fights, but do have a lot of in-your-face, blink in, stun you down, wall you down type of play.
Surprised the Valks don't ban out Cthulhu. I just feel like Soul Laner's still available to the Oni Warriors. Double Cthulhu composition, just incredibly hard to deal with in general, but with a double Hunter draft, you've got decent answers. Kin size from the Osiris, from the Chernobog, and the Cupid might make it a little bit more difficult for a Cthulhu to separate some of these team fights, even into the Kabrakan. The ability to just kind of like wall them out, lock them down might make it difficult. So the Valks, I suppose, saying, hey, look, our draft is okay in a double Cthulhu, maybe good enough that the Oni Warriors won't even consider it for themselves. It is strange, though, seeing the double Hunter composition from the Valkyries. I think anytime a Cupid is locked in for this team, you could just pretty accurately assume that it's going to go over towards Wowy, one of his favorites, one that he had been playing before Cupid was being picked by anybody else in the league. Now that he's good, expect to see Wowy playing it a lot more often. Chernobog, though, could be going solo, could be going mid. That would leave Osiris in the jungle, Kabrakan over in that support. I would like to see Kabrakan in support regardless. High kill pressure lane for the Valkyries with this Cupid was one of the win conditions in Game 2, so being able to reprise that style of play in Game 3, I think integral to the Valkyries win con. But lacking a standard mage can hurt you a whole lot in some of these team fights, and lacking an AoE damage against a Khepri can make it pretty difficult as well.
If you could see Chernobog, solo, Osiris, jungle, Cupid ADC, Kabrakan mid, could be an option for BennyQ.
You think Benny's got that Shinto in him?
He might. He played Terra mid earlier on in this set.
And it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have seen BennyQ on the Kabrakan in the past, so I'm not throwing that out. I think there are a variety of options here for the Valhalla Valkyries. Now, more unique styles of picks for the Oni Warriors. Ram has not seen a lot of play. Kleedna had seen a lot of play in the past, but has not as of late. Looks like Kleedna will end up being the solo lane pick for Nika, the Nemesis over in the jungle. And so you got a lot of high target damage here if you're the Oni Warriors. And the Chang'e lock in. So let's take this draft on a whole myth, because you're clearly confused by where everything's going here, and I am as well.
It's got to be Chang'e mid.
Got to be Chang'e mid.
Khepri support.
Khepri support with Cupid. Osiris jungle, Chernobog
solo. I mean, Chang'e's been in the solo in the past. Divios in particular is one that really liked that god. I suppose it comes down to matchup. Do you prefer to have your Chernobog up against Cleaner, or would you prefer to have your Chang'e there?
Yeah.
I don't think that either one of them has got a particularly strong matchup there. It's more survivable, likely going to be that Chang'e. So if you're worried about just getting absolutely dominating the lane, maybe you see her over there. Chernobog, certainly no stranger to finding some pressure in mid. I think either one of these two, Chang'e or Chernobog, would find pressure against the Morrigan. Not many gods going to lose out to her in just that mid 1v1. So I think the Valkyries don't have to concern themselves too much in that regard, but it's high execution.
Right, high execution, and back to just total unique god picks, right? Where it felt like in game 2, the Valks changed their play style a bit. They play around the semi-global presence of Kyrmi. They have the transformations from BennyQ, but all of the gods they picked in game 2 were standard meta-style gods, just gave themselves an easier execution style of comp. Are you at all worried that the Valks have now reverted their mindset to what happened in game 1, where you're throwing out something totally unique as far as pick and potentially roll, the Chang'e we never see? Are you worried that the Valks could be under threat of what happened in game 1 again?
Feels like a half step back. They're not all the way wild. You know, this is a draft that I could see working out and makes sense to me. Like, the Terra mid is just a complete question mark.
Yeah, right.
Not exactly sure how that's going to work out in those team fights, and it didn't. But with this composition, I mean, the team fight should just be fine. You've got decent healing, anti-heal to deal with some of this lifesteal from the cleanup, from the ROM as well. I think the Valkyries have got themselves a draft that can work, but when I say that about the Valkyries, it's not as if I'm saying that when the Leviathans are doing something a little bit different, or when the Bolts are doing something different. The Valkyries do not have my benefit of the doubt. I want to see them playing standard. I want to see them playing something that execution isn't a massive question mark on it. When you go for unorthodox compositions, execution is the most important thing that you could have. And they are not consistent in that regard. So my concern is with the Valkyries. Can they perform on this style of draft? How are they going to transition to the mid-game? What does your objective team fight look like? How are you securing them? What's the burn going to be? How are you going to get to the point where you can actually be the ones pulling these objectives? Those are all questions I have for the Valkyries that they are going to have to answer with a draft like this. Whereas the Oni Warriors, the favorite in this matchup, I don't have questions for their draft. Right. It is largely standard across the board. Maybe some slight question marks, but certainly things that we've seen in the past. The Valkyries are going to have to prove themselves here.
Game 3 between the Oni Warriors and the Valkyries. Can the Valkyries find their first set win of the phase? High importance Game 3 kicking off right now.
And it's going to be an important Game 3, and luckily you got Charlie and myself, two dads on vacation, casting a Game 3 of the Valhalla Valkyries versus the Oni Warriors. Can they find that first set win of phase number 2? An important question that they are going to have to answer for us today. And we're talking about weird kind of picks that the Valkyries like going for, doing things a little bit more unorthodox. Well, it's been not like we haven't seen Chernobog mid before. We haven't seen very much Chang'e in general, and Aquarius is going to be the one piling that one, Trelly.
Yeah, given the mid-season patch, I thought we might see an influx of Chang'e. I thought the itemization fit her decently well. The question is always, you know, how much are you going to get camped? Are you going to have any sort of pressure in that lane? You know, Chang'e is one of those characters that falls behind quite easily. You really rely on your blue buff. You can, of course, use the bunny to get you some mana pots if you're getting invaded, things like that, but you really want to keep all of your farm to yourself, and you don't farm very quickly. If you're going to itemize into hybrid build, you don't really do that much damage. If you go full damage, you don't really survive too much, but I think this patch might be decent for her. I was thinking more so in the mid lane. We'll have to see how Aquarius decides to build. Could be a Warlock stash start, but given the Conduit gem, maybe a sort of hybrid build could be the case. But given the fact that we're seeing Chang'e, it's also, I thought I'd even have to highlight this, Nika on the Cleana, a pick that has fallen by the wayside. She got nerfed a fair bit, and no one's really been touching her since then. But Nika's always had a great performance on this Cleana when she was in favor, so I imagine has still been testing her and thinks she still has some value.
Maybe so, and again, something we probably don't ever really get to highlight or discuss is kind of that solo lane matchup between these two. I mean, the Assassin Kleena going for a little bit more sustain in the route, Chang'e having the natural sustain to her kid. I mean, how does that solo lane matchup kind of pan out, Trelly?
I mean, I imagine Aqua wants the Divine, because at that point, if you ever hit Nika with the heal, you just have literally Nika's not healing. Like, it's just not going to happen. He's going to get no sort of value. The issue is, though, you have to close that gap and get within, like, melee range of a Kleena as Chang'e. So unless we see Kyrmi in the distance or some excellent ward coverage or QvoFred on, like, the opposite side of the map, I don't think Aqua's going to have that benefit of just being able to sit up right next to Nika throughout this lane. However, in the early game, with that Conduit gem, Aquarius is out-pressuring this Kleena, as he probably should as the time goes on.
And not really the best wave clear options for a Kleena until around that level 5 mark when you get those charges of the ultimate up there. And then you can kind of freely clear out. So for now, maybe we can expect to continue to see Aquarius keeping that pressure up. Just like we've been seeing pressure in the dual lane. Gamma, Wowy both go in. Heart Bomb hits NeilMah. Vote is stuck inside the Tremors. Will roll out.
Wow.
The wave clear will still at least go over to the Valkyries just because they've been able to keep the Oni Warriors out pressure in duo. And this is something that that Myth was talking about on the desk, was wanting to see that Kabrakan and duo to get that pressure. And it will be a blue buff invade successful to the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, it just seemed like, Gamma hits the double stun. Wowy was on board with, I'm going to Heart Bomb Neil, and it seemed like Gamma really wanted to use those stuns on the Vote. So split up their DPS a bit there. I don't think a kill would have came through, but it's possible that Vote would have had to beads and dash out, or at least take a little bit more damage as that lane went on. But not going to be the case, and will just be a purple buff confirmed for both sides. So really the only aggression that we've seen thus far is that invade onto the blue buff that the Valkyries were able to confirm. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of gold in favor for the Valkyries. They were able to take away that buff from Kleena. Nika obviously doesn't have the teleport, so he's going to be sitting in lane for quite some time and not going to be able to finish that Soul Eater. And it's going to start to add up. You want to make sure you're confirming those Totem of Kus, which the Valks were able to do as well. So holding on to his abilities, whenever you're getting out pressure like this in Soul Lane, your mana is everything. So Nika's not going to be using those abilities for poke. It's only going to be for last-hitting minions and trying to get as much farm as possible.
Yeah, it might be hard with how much pressure Aquarius has put through the early stage of the game on this Chang'e. And now at that level 5, that's an immense, immediate threat thrown towards any one of these team fights. But as you can see, Nika just does not have the damage to even clear out, to not even deal the damage to the wave. And as you highlight there, with Aquarius healing the wave, adding insult to injury.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Chang'e never has to back, right? Aquarius can just consistently sustain as long as he's getting Totem of Coup control, has his own blue buff. He can just send the bunny back for Warlock Sash. Nika's gonna have to leave eventually, and when he does, he's missing a full wave, like guaranteed. As long as Aquarius is doing what he has been doing, and just getting so much pressure in this lane. See, out of mana right now. And now Aqua can ult him, keep him around as long as he wants, make sure that this next blue buff gets invaded as well. Looking at where Kyrmi is, though, don't think that's going to be an option. Kyrmi's more so looking at the duo lane gank, and he's going to leave that blue buff alone for Qvo to go look at.
And this is where Kyrmi put his pressure in game number 2 and was able to at least net the Valkyries some sort of a lead there. But Aquarius, as a solo Chang'e, not having his teammate there, means that that blue buff will get to go over to Nika this time, so he won't have to suffer at least for the next couple of minutes on that mana sustain.
Yeah, I think that would have been... You could guarantee that Nika misses a full wave if Kyrmi makes it to that blue buff. Now he's going to be able to get that buff and stay back, and Aqua has to run to his blue buff to get that XP. So I think a bit of a misplay there by the Valks. However, I understand where Kyrmi's head's at. Level 4, NeilMah doesn't have the ultimate yet. We could possibly look for a kill in duo. Unfortunately for Kyrmi, the Warriors maybe weren't on to the gank, maybe they weren't aware of that gank presence, but they had to know at least, hey, we can't push up anyways. We're level 4, there's no kill potential, no reason for us to step out of this tower line. So Kyrmi wastes a little bit of that early pressure and just kind of sits around. It's not going to be the biggest deal in the world because the Valks still have a fair gold lead here throughout the map. I think that's just by nature of the Warriors' composition, right? Rama doesn't come online for quite some time. Neil is not going to get aggressive, so that duo lane is just sitting under tower. Dardez, he's going to be staying relatively even, but that's pretty much what mid laners do. And Osiris just wants to get active in the mid, and we've seen that Nika has not been able to clear like any of these waves until he finally got those veils unlocked.
Doug, can we get a look at the net worth chart just to kind of see what it's looking like in the Soul Lane? 41 to 33. 800 of that gold that the Valkyries have in the lead is just through that solo lane alone. The amount of waves that Nika has had pushed under his tower.
And that was one blue buff invade.
Yeah, that was off of the one invade, but even just that early pressure that this Chang'e has been having it seems that Nika has just not been having the most successful time being able to get some of that extra farm. Now that he does have that Soul Eater online stacking up, it might be a little bit easier for him to keep alive in that lane.
Yeah, and once you get your ultimate as well, you don't really have to use your abilities on the wave anymore. You essentially just throw a Veil out, wait, maybe you throw your one if you really need to clean up the rest of the stacks. It's going to be not that much of an issue. But I think the whole plan for the Valks was to get Aqua this early lead and then sort of let him be on an island, because we haven't seen Kyrmi over here except to confirm that blue buff. And then he heads right back over to duo lane time and time again. That's where Kyrmi's sitting at the moment. But now he looks like he's more so interested in these oracles. Gamma's here as well, just looking to see if he could possibly wall off Vote. It looks like he might have a chance. Nope, he just watched him.
Nope.
he just sort of watched him go.
that was a and it's gone kind of a moment there. It's like, all right, he's got an opportunity to wall him, and it's gone. No more wall. No chance to grab him this time around. Maybe a chance to pick up Aquarius, though. Still holding on to that immunity. We'll use it as QvoFred dives under the tower. An ult from Dardez will actually get away from the waxing moon. Aquarius walks out of the tower, walks back in, and will heal himself up. QvoFred gets towered out hit by the tower, but it's Nika who will find first blood. A dunk in from Kyrmi to try and return it. Good stun out of Dardez, but the tether will lock down Nika. Return kill for the Valkyries. And a beads out of Dardez, thinking Kyrmi was going to go further.
I'm surprised that Kyrmi didn't go further. You have the Mannequin Scepter tick. You're guaranteed to make sure that Dardez doesn't get that invis off. So I think the chase could have been there. And I think Dardez was smart to beads that one. Qvo, unfortunately for the Valks, is going to steal that blue buff away. So Kyrmi's not going to get the XP, and Aqua's not going to get to pick that one up. That was one of those ganks that just took forever. And I was looking up, and I was like, where's the rest of the Valks? You know, when's BennyQ going to show up? Anyone else going to join this fight? And it just didn't happen. Obviously, Kyrmi gets in for the re-gank, but if anyone rotated there a little bit earlier, that could have been a wipe. It just took so long to try and find that kill onto Aquarius. Qvo blinks through the tower and then runs out the back through blue up. So just a lot of presence over on that side of the map, and it didn't seem like the Valks could get there in time.
Yeah, Aquarius able to buy quite a bit of time. I think got 2 heals off during the midst of that fight. The ultimate was just off the mark from hitting Dardez as soon as he had landed down from that Morrigan transformation. And just bought as much as he could, enough to where Kyrmi was able to come over and at least make it a 1-for-1 trade out. But the first blood bounty going over to the Warriors. Snipes decent from Vote, but not enough damage to kill Wowy. Just getting some poke over on the Cupid. And looking at the gold lead, the Valkyries, even despite dropping the first blood, they're still sitting up 2,500 over the Warriors. Ultimate good on the QvoFred to lock out one path, but with NeilMah here, no further push in from the Valkyries.
Yeah, it seems like the plan there was to just ult for ult, Wowy for Vote, get that ult down, and then Kyrmi runs it down duo lane, but Vote's onto that and was able to get out. Then Gamma said, hey, I've got an opportunity to try and kill Qvo here, but unfortunately NeilMah's here, Scarab's Blessing, we don't want to go for that, so the ult immediately just gets called off. So some ults are being used, some punches are being thrown, but nothing landing at the moment, just really just damage checking. But the gold lead, always in favor of the Valks as of recent. They've just been able to find so much farm as this game has continued. I love the positioning from Gamma, sitting around mid lane. Dardez obviously had to beads in that last fight, so any time that he's caught up just a little bit too far, you get to force that transformation out or look for a kill opportunity.
Something that's caught my eye, Trelly, is Vote didn't go for a stacking at first. Didn't pick up Transcendence like we've seen from the Hunters. Didn't go Devourers, Gauntlets, or even skipping to Blood Force like we've seen with some gods like Xing. What's up with this kin size first item out of Vote?
I have to imagine this is going to be full pen attack speed. Just Death's, not even Death's Embrace. He could go Death's Temper really easily with the attack speed from Rama. Throw an Odio in there could be a good time. I'm imagining Vote doesn't want to fight. That's what that build tells me. He's going to sit at that tower line, as we've seen, trade ult for ult every time for Wowy. Hopefully NeilMah's there to help out if Kyrmi ever sniffs out a gank and sit underneath that tower and hard carry the game away. That seems to be the plan here. When you're picking a character like Rama in a meta like this, you're not building Transcendence. You're building to fully shred these tanks late game, and I like the mindset. It just does take a bit before you can start getting aggressive with a build like that.
Man, the Valkyries just keep slowly uptrending on their gold. I mean, sitting 2,700 now up, and I gotta imagine a lot of this is just coming from this solo lane more than anything. 7 Totem of Coups have gone the way of Aquarius, and maybe a kill their way as well. Nika makes it into the wall. But where will he try and find his escape? There's only Gamma there. Gamma has the ultimate, but gets stopped by NeilMah. Great pull. And now to turn onto Aquarius, QvoFred doesn't go any further than that. BennyQ spots out Nika, but gets silenced out from being able to close out the root combo. Great play from Neil to stop that one in its tracks, though.
Yeah, that was so sick by Neil, making sure that those walls were not able to block off Nika. The blue buff goes down as well, so some aggression from the Valks, rightfully so. They're trying to find that kill potential. And it looks like Qvo is going to make it out as well, so Gamma's not getting to drop these walls. He really would love to. He keeps trying to find it, and it looks like the portal, or the Pyromancer rather, is getting started up as Neil, the whole squad is here. They're just going for this.
I mean, this is a 4v4 around the Pyromancer. The Oni Warriors will pick it back up. Gamma can try and go for the wall this time, but instead will turn around, drop the Tremors, gets the stun on towards Dardez, drops the walls on Dardez. That's half HP on the Morrigan, and a little bit more with the 2 immediately after. But the Valkyries will give up the chase on 1, maybe start the chase on NeilMah instead. Dash gets him away from the tether. Nika has shown up and gets the invis proc on towards Kyrmi. But the Valkyries, they gave up the Pyro instead, now just had to elect towards an even smaller consolation prize of mid-Harpies.
Yeah, I don't envy the position that QvoFred is in at the moment. There is just so much CC to try and catch this Nemesis out as the Valks start up the Pyromancer once again. This time only Nika will be able to make it in time, and not even so. He's just too slow at this point. The Pyromancer goes down, and the Valks climb ahead. Even more gold. I think definitely smart. The Oni Warriors, I don't think their fight at the moment is that great. Again, I was just talking about Qvo, the Nemesis into a matchup like this where Kyrmi's probably always outboxing you. You know, BennyQ can just hide in the wall anytime you want to get aggressive. And, of course, Gamma is always going to be there to just have CC. At level 12, of course, it gets a little bit better. You get some beads online. You get some CC immunity. The only time we saw some aggression from Qvo was onto Aquarius. But looking at a level 13 Chang'e who just got a shell, you're eating a waxing moon and the gank is essentially over. So I think it's smart to just say, hey, let's dial it back a bit. If they're on Gold Fury, we fight. Anything else, we're giving that Pyromancer up. Like maybe Nika's able to throw something and try and go for the steal. Even slow to that at that point. So let the Valks run away with the early, but eventually at this Gold Fury, that's when they're going to have to fight. And the Valks are probably happy to force that.
Yeah, Wowy level 13. Should be getting close to hitting level 14. Just about everybody. Yeah, it's just over to 14 now. So just about everybody on the Valkyries, aside from Aquarius, is either at least a half to 1 level ahead of their opposition. And that's why we don't see the experience, at least as far as the grab's concerned, that's too out of control. NeilMah finds the grab on Kyrmi. Kyrmi waiting for the stun from the tether. Another stun from Gamma. The Tremors in a heart bomb. NeilMah has nowhere to go. We'll have to use the Scarab's Blessing on himself. The Tremors still lock him in, and BennyQ comes in. Just to add insult to injury. Another kill for the Valhalla Valkyries, this time on their mid laner.
I mean, that was even sick by Kyrmi. I figured, you know, he's going to blink in, force out the jump, but because he was, you know, invisible at that point and can traverse through NeilMah, goes in front and actually catches the dash, make sure that he's not able to escape. No reason to even use the rest of your relics. The sprint gets held on to because NeilMah was definitely dead there, even after the Scarab's Blessing. It was just not enough. The question is, will the Valks feel confident enough to go for this Gold Fury? It looks like not. They're just going to go back to farming and continue pushing this lead ahead. Only the second kill of the game for the Valks, but that gold lead, or looking at that gold lead, you wouldn't be able to tell. 4 kills, just phenomenal objective play, looking at their invades exactly when they need to, and pushing their aggression exactly where they know they can.
I mean, they were sitting up, what was it, 1,500 before First Blood even went down. The Valkyries have just been finding more farm across the map. 9 Totem of Coups to 1 means a pretty nice little gold spike just from that neutral objective alone. The Valkyries have just been farming better. Even in this dual lane, we're sitting about 1,000 gold up over his opponent here. I mean, not a whole lot really comes over of the dual lane. Just Wowy, I guess, what, forcing minions under the tower, or maybe getting a couple extra camps here and there?
Yeah, Wowy's been starving a bit. I think whenever they trade ults, Wowy just sits there and says, like, step up. And, you know, we've seen Kyrmi hovering around that jungle a fair bit, so I think Vote is very aware of this and is saying, you know what, I've got the better late game, or at least, you know, assumes he's got the better late game and is going to play better as the build gets online, which, you know, that's not even a hot take. Rama does have a great late game, so just not too worried about it, not going to step up to get some farm. The build is coming along, has the kin size and the executioner, so that's going to help the rest of the DPS of the Oni Warriors when they do start to group up. But yeah, Wowy's just been able to find tons of pressure in that lane because of that fact.
We do see Nika going for a glass cannon style of clean up build. And if I'm not mistaken, that's something that the solo laners this past week were saying, is that Kleena doesn't do as much damage when you go for that bruiser style anymore, so it feels like you've got to commit maybe a bit more towards damage to get that same level of power spike that we had before on that god. It seems that at least that sentiment is echoed by Nika, at least the way his build is going.
Yeah, it's something along the lines of you can't go Genji's Guard, Breastplate, Heartseeker, and just 1v1 carries anymore. But with this style of build, you certainly can. You just have to watch out for the amount of CC that can come your way, and avoid that in the walls as you can. Looking at the late game fight, an ult from Aquarius could spell disaster. You got to watch out for BennyQ being able to dive the backline, as he sort of was last game. He was Ratatoskr, or he was the Morrigan, but as a Ratatoskr was able to get to the backline. Chernobog from ahead can do the same thing, can play as a pseudo-assassin, just fly to the backline as quickly as possible and just try and find those kills. BennyQ did go for the Rage and has a stack on it currently, but hasn't been able to find too much value out of this item since then. Really just building for that late game, going into the Wind Demon after the fact, try and get some crit online. And it looks like the Valks are going to group in mid on this Trebuchet.
5-man mid for a Trebuchet tier 1 push for the Warriors, and vote on the way. But it's just going to be a slow poke. I mean, not much that the Warriors can really do to stop this one. They can't step up to the Trebuchet. They definitely don't want to try and step into the Valkyries. Double root is good from Neil, but this Trebuchet is going to get max value. Be able to push out a tier 1 tower for free. 2 more shots ought to do it. Nika will try and slow it down. He's doing everything he can with that veil, but one more hit from the Trebuchet will take down the tier 1 tower. It will crumble to the might of the neutral objective the Valkyries have been able to get consistently so far. I mean, almost every single time that we've looked at the Valkyries in this set, they've been the ones getting these Trebuchets.
Yeah, they have been able to get
and
that.
Pyro.
Yeah, and they got Pyromancer as well, so that's going to help them out. I love that you can make that play, though. 5-man group around the Trebuchet and say, hey, step up, kill it. And the Warriors were like, well, we're scared. And it's like, all right, well, then we're going to get your tower. We're going to continue to a 5K gold lead. Notably, the Valks have a 5K gold lead, and they have not stepped foot near the Gold Fury. I mean, not even really towards duo lane. They looked at that kill on NeilMah, which is more so towards the green buff. It was very far in to the Oni Warriors jungle. But besides that, the Valks have not been, really forcing anything on the left side of the map. They've been playing their lead as well as they can. BennyQ's level 18, by the way. This Chernobog has been just power farming, trying to get as online as you can and press that lead. But still, also without looking at that Gold Fury. I mean, it has not even been pulled at this point.
No. Not teased at all, barely even. The only thing the closest we've gotten to seeing the Gold Fury has been Oracles going down, and maybe for the next couple of minutes it might remain that same way. Actually trying to starve vote out of a wave are the Valkyries. Not going to be able to do too much there. That passive Gamma coming through to help out, but
it's a pull.
Gold Fury started up now by the Valkyries. Everybody but Aquarius here to try and start this one up, and NeilMah not going to find the steal this time around. A little late on that Solar Flare to steal it away. Valhalla Valkyries get a Gold Fury and push that lead again. 7,000 gold, 19 minutes in, and with only 3 kills, BennyQ ults into the mid lane, gets stuck from his dash. BennyQ now in danger, but QvoFred cannot stick around for much longer. Benny goes down to the might of Dardez. Nika sitting at the front line, but now Kyrmi has shown back up. The Aegis will not buy enough time for Nika, but the ultimate from Neil will get him out. QvoFred got caught on the wrong side of the field to love the shell, and his shield keeps him alive, but only for a moment longer. Wowy and Gamma close the gap and take down the jungler.
Yeah, Vote has ult, but wants to turn and fight this one. Doesn't have the beads, and he might have waited a little bit too long.
Nika's doing a lot of damage with that veil. Up in the sky is Vote getting those snipes. Dardez goes down to Kyrmi all the while on the right side of the map. And Wowy will not be able to close in to find Vote. Aquarius, not quite enough damage. 2 of them of the Oni Warriors go down for only 1 of the Valks.
Yeah, I mean, BennyQ tries to dash into the wall. A great stun there to make sure that he doesn't get into the wall. Double relics, he's not able to survive. And honestly, I think the Valks could have fought immediately after that Gold Fury if Kyrmi wasn't the one tanking up that Gold Fury. Because he was so weak, they decide, you know what, we're not going to go for this. And then they fight after the fact, just losing the relics on BennyQ and then so much extra gold in pocket. I mean, that's just a massive win there for the Valks. We saw some signs of life. We saw the build sort of start to take form here for Vote, and he is building kind of what I expected with the Silver Branch bow and the Odie bow. If he does go for the Death's Temper over the Death's Embrace, that'll just seal it. He's going for as max attack speed as you can, shredding through. But it's taking so long to get online. It's almost to the point where, you sort of sat by the wayside for so long. You were really praying for that late game. Will you even get to the late game? You're down close to 8K gold at this point. The Valks haven't been looking at that Fire Giant, though, and actually we're seeing a grouping of the Oni Warriors towards that FG, just trying to get some vision down. And Aquarius might be in some trouble.
That's a lot of damage to the Chang'e. Not enough though. Stun on the QvoFred. 2 Veils have to be used by Nika. The tower, not quite enough damage to deal the killing blow. The Warriors find a pick up against the solo laner of the Valkyries. He's been one of the only ones going down so far in this game. Now we see a turn and burn. Kyrmi used the ultimate onto Dardez. Transformation instantly. Nika coming back to the fight. Vote finds a kill up against Kyrmi, but QvoFred is low. Ult from NeilMah will at least make sure that he can get out. But a heart bomb lands onto Dardez, a D-transform, and then a sprint for NeilMah to try and get him out. Vote goes up in the air for some snipes, but not going to find any ideal targets to find the landing. Instead, he lands right into the damage of BennyQ. Wowy dashes in aggressively. Heart bomb is on Vote, and Vote will go down, but Nika finds a trade around kill on towards Wowy. Now Nika the one in danger as BennyQ dashes into the wall and dashes into Nika.
Yeah, it looks like BennyQ is not going to be able to chase down Neil. Finally getting some value from this Chernobog pick, getting some stacks onto that Rage. He hit level 20. I was wondering, when's he going to get active? We saw Aquarius. The whole fight starts with Aquarius getting picked. BennyQ went up into the ultimate, but wasn't able to chase through. And then the Oni Warriors finally answer back and find a lot of picks there as well. But the Valks aren't going to roll over so easily. They still do have this massive boon in gold, and their fight is still going to be so solid as well. Taking a look at everything, just 7K in favor for the Valks, and it doesn't look like the Oni Warriors are going to use this time to pull anything because they're still down a man. And it looks like the Valks are heading towards that Fire Giant. So even though Wowy is dead for a couple more seconds, it looks like we're getting a pull attempt here because they got 2 ADCs.
Yeah, they do have that second Hunter with Benny. It started up, but immediately stopped, as they may have recognized that they're not putting out quite the damage number they thought that they would. Instead, they'll trade for the Pyromancer. NeilMah throws out the Rising Dawn, throws out the Root, and the Valkyries will secure the Pyro. The fact that I have to hold my breath.
Hey, that Rising Dawn will get you.
The fact I've got to hold my breath because we've seen 2 Rising Dawn steal objective steals, 1 Gold Fury, 1 Fire Giant. Just goes to show that you never know what can happen in SMITE. NeilMah unsuccessful in stealing that one away, so Pyro did go over to the Valkyries. And look at that third item by Gamma, going for a little bit of damage into it. We've been seeing a lot of the Chronos Pendant from some of these supports, but Gamma going for an Ethereal Staff this time around.
Yeah, you gotta love seeing some damage Kabrakan, right? Because you're not gonna bring a Scarab's Blessing to the table. You know, you're not gonna have a res, but what you will have is a ton of CC. If you get to the carries, you're gonna be chunking, and QvoFred doesn't have the defense built just yet to want to eat the stuns from Gamma. So once that cloak comes through, it could be an option. But it looks like Fire Giant's getting absolutely shredded.
Under half HP, it's got to be a commit for the Valkyries. They do get the fire, but can they get the fight after? BennyQ has dashed away, feels a love drop on toward NeilMah, and that's enough damage to take them down. Aquarius finds a pick against Nika, but Dardez transforms in to a Cupid of his own and is losing the crit matchup against BennyQ. Kyrmi finds another one, 4 down, and make it 5. All of the Warriors have been eliminated. It's the Valkyries with a fire and a deicide.
That looked like such a bad fight for the Valks, and then a Fields of Love into a Waxing Moon from Aquarius turn the kills. BennyQ hitting massive crits. This is the benefit of that fully stacked Rage. You have so much crit chance and so much DPS. The Valhalla Valkyries off the back of this deicide. Only NeilMah's here, and this could be their first win of the whole game.
24 seconds till Qvo is back up. Phoenix at a quarter HP. Kyrmi,
this is it.
Kyrmi's got to join the party. NeilMah is here. He's got to hold out for 15 more seconds until Qvo and Nika are back up. But the Valhalla Valkyries, after getting absolutely trounced in game number 1, have turned around a game number 2, have dominated a game number 3, and will find their first set win of the phase against the Oni Warriors.
Look at those player cams, man. I am feeling the same amount of happiness that Gamma is. He's absolutely popping off there in the player cams. What a greatly played game. I mean, we've been highlighting what the Valks had to do to turn their season around, right? Their early game was always solid, but the late game team fight, their ability to farm was always in question. This game, it was 2-1, and they had a 5K goalie. They were farming the map exactly how they needed to. They were pressuring the lanes where they knew they could find gold, starving out Vote lane to lane, and then they played off those leads perfectly. This was a completely different Valks team in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, game number 1, I'm not going to say it's what we've been seeing a lot of from the Valks, but that is maybe a little bit more up to scuff from what we've been seeing, at least from the Oni Warriors. Game number 2, completely different look out of the Valkyries. They go with a much more traditional style of team comp, a much more traditional play, and they play with the leads that they had built in some of those lanes out there, really farming up the duo. And then you get into game number 3, and as you say, and as you highlight it perfectly, farm game on point by the Valhalla Valkyries means 7,000 gold up with a 2-1 lead at like 16 minutes. Just feels unheard of for a team like this.
Yeah, there was a few fumbles there where like it looked like the Oni Warriors were able to find some kills, but that last Fire Giant fight was all I needed to see, right? You get the objective, win the fight handedly after the fact. The DSI just, it spelled victory for them.
Well, the Valhalla Valkyries find their first set win of the phase and a big one against the Oni Warriors. That's from us here on the cast. I'm gonna throw it to the desk before I mess this up anymore.
Appreciate it, J-Mac. The Valhalla Valkyries find themselves their first win of the phase, and it's convincing in both Game 2 and Game number 3. After Game 1 goes the way it did, all bets are off, but the Valkyries bring it together. They try a couple different styles of compositions and beat the Oni Warriors in 3 games to improve themselves to a win there on the win column here in phase number 2, Myth. Look, we were unsure, right, with that style of comp. Are you doing too much? Is the execution threshold too high? Answer was no. They built up a gold lead somewhat passively, the Valkyries did. Were able to capitalize, find themselves a win.
Neutral play wins this game for the Valhalla Valkyries. Just being able to transition into the first actual team fight of the match with a massive gold lead was huge for these guys. Individual players step up in this one as well. I think when their backs were against the wall, 3-game set, we got to get our set win. Gamma comes up huge for this squad. That Bracken play, absolutely phenomenal. Kyrmi on the Osiris getting active everywhere on the map as if he had global presence. Without it, just super big as well. Got to give as much shout outs as I can to that duo lane. I think this is twice now in this set where they decide to play through the duo and just dominate there. Vote was not allowed to farm. Wowy was getting active on the map, dashing forward with the Cupid. When I talk about Wowy in the past and in their losses, I say, man, this is probably one of the most passive players I've ever seen. Not the case today. He was active.
It was a very competitive game, though, here in Game 3. Game 1, lopsided. Game 2 got to that point. Game 3, again, it was sort of passive. We're 20 minutes in with like 4 kills, but if you take note of the gold lead all throughout this time, 2,000 gold for the Valks. Now, 3,500 gold for the Valks, like 4 minutes later with no more kills on board. BennyQ making use of those rotations. And I agree, the dual lane for the Valks really stepped up today. I think Kyrmi in Game 2 had a fantastic Ratatoskr performance, but a surge forward from a duo lane that has struggled in some of their past matchups, I think was an absolute strong point today. The Cupid looked great in Games 2 and 3 for Wowy, ends up at 3-1 and 6. And I was unsure of the Chang'e solo, and Aquarius made it work.
He did. He survived a really long time for a lot of dives coming his way, which I gotta think is exactly what Aquarius had picked the Chang'e for, the Moonlit Waltz. Just so good in those scenarios. Bought time for Kyrmi to rotate through. I'm thinking about a 3-man dive from the Oni Warriors that took upwards of a minute. Finally, Kyrmi makes his way over, was able to turn around that fight. This time around, you can't say, hey, BennyQ carried the team. You can't say, man, Kyrmi just had a phenomenal performance. This, perhaps for the first time, was a Valks win. The 5-man squad earned that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so it's the small building blocks that the team has always talked about. We're working on small things. We're working on little things. The game wins will come. The set wins will come. Just in time for this Valhalla Valkyries team. A 3-game set comes up Valks over the Oni Warriors. And standing by with me for the post-game interview, Gamma, support of the team.
Thank you, Dolson.
Oh, Gamma, look, the player cams after that set said it all. You guys amped up, hyped up, grabbing yourselves a win. Is that just a feeling of payoff? You grab the set win and the emotions come out?
Oh boy, it felt good. I mean, if you can imagine after an 11-loss streak or something like that, boy, that was a weight off our shoulders for sure.
Well, look, Game 1, that's handedly for the Oni Warriors, but then 2 and 3, obviously, you guys win. What team adjustments did you guys make to kind of stabilize after Game 1 and get the heads right for Game 2?
A lot of it was in the draft, I think. Benny really advocated for some good ideas there.
Right.
And then I think when it came to in-game, we all just we calmed down, stopped overreacting to every little thing they did, and focused more on what we could do. And then it all kind of just came together there.
Look, I think one of the largest spearheads that you guys had today was your play, Wowy's play as well. The duo lane looked fantastic. Do you feel like today was a big step forward for the duo lane, one of the best performances you guys have put in this phase?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely been some inconsistency, but you know, when the Whoopid comes into meta, you got to start looking out, right?
Is that patented? We're sticking
That's
with it?
That's the patented
We're
Whoopid, yeah.
sticking with the Whoopid. Gamma, so happy to see you guys back in the win column. Congrats on the win. Looking forward to more of it.
Thanks again.
Valhalla Valkyries in the win column here in Phase 2, and it's over the Oni Warriors, Myth. And I don't think it can be understated how good of a win this is for the Valkyries, because think back to the Scarab starting their couple of set win streak. That's over the Camelot Kings. Big win there. Valkyries, they now get a win over one of the top 3 teams here in this league, and it's convincing in a couple of games and in a couple of different avenues. Game 2, the semi-global presence of Kyrmi helps springboard this team forward. Game 3, it's passive. Gold lead builds up, and then the team fighting just looks better. The Valhalla Valkyries, they improve themselves in the standings, and not the last that we're going to see of a couple of these teams here this weekend. The Valhalla Valkyries and the Oni Warriors will be playing a couple more sets here, or not a couple more, another set here later on in the weekend, and that will be tomorrow. The Tartarus Titans and the Valhalla Valkyries will be battling it out in our first set of the day on Sunday, and then the Oni Warriors, talk about a bounce-back game they have to have, Myth. They're going up against the Olympus Bolts to close out our week.
Yeah, not an easy week for the Oni Warriors, and not off to a great start, but a veteran team that I expect to be able to bounce back and bring a great performance up against the Olympus Bolts. Valhalla Valkyries get to try and continue their trek up the standings, able to improve themselves by 1. I'm impressed. The standing's not correct here. All right, we're going to put some respect on them. Put a 1 in. I know we're not used to seeing it, but put a 1 in that win column because the Valkyries earned it against the Warriors.
That's right. Valkyries improve themselves, get a 1 over in the win column, and I think Gamma really says it all there. You know, feels like payoff for this team. It's about doing that a bit more consistently, right? I mean, you got to ride the high of this win. Take away the good, though. Realize what you did well in Game 2. Realize what you did well in Game 3. Ride that, hopefully, into more set wins, more Game 3s in the future, because, again, a big difference was that the Valks weren't even making it to Game 3s, right? It was a lot of 2-0s. It was 10 or 11 games, not just sets, but games in a row that they had lost. So getting to Game 3, I think, was a big enough win for this team. But not enough for them. They grabbed themselves a set win over in Game 3. Put a little bit of pressure on the rest of the league. The Valhalla Valkyries are here to play. So congrats to them. You love to see it. Finally getting some payoff from all of that hard work. And now, Myth, I think we have to turn our eyes towards our next set. I want to get some brief thoughts from you on it. The Solar Scarabs up against the Tartarus Titans. Scarabs, a team that had some momentum. Lost their jungler this week. They're playing with Oath. Expectations for this squad going up against the Titans?
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I think the Scarabs, of course, concerned with losing one of the linchpins of their team, one of the in-game leaders in Scream, but are replacing him this week with Oath, who has been a very mechanical player in the SEC, one that has continually impressed me. Do I think the Scarabs are expected to win here? Absolutely not, but we can't take away from the momentum that they are carrying into this week. I expect a good game from the Solar Scarabs, so optimism, but cautiously.
Big takeaway from the first set of the day. The Valhalla Valkyries with their first set win of the phase. In our next set, our first look at the Solar Scarabs minus Scream. Solar Scarabs versus Tartarus Titans coming up next.
So, I was outside, now I'm no longer outside, but for those of you who have been keeping up with the SPL, you've seen the tiny mics. I've been told that the size of my mic was a choking hazard, so they gave me a much bigger one. Anyway, Scary D, what's the D stand for?
I can't tell you.
Understood. I shouldn't have asked him. God, Slaney, how's things? What are the expectations playing with Oath today?
I mean, realistically, we have to go in with like a pretty realistic expectations of not expecting to win too hard, or, you know, obviously we are good enough players where we can win, but we're playing with a guy that we've had one day of scrims with. That's obviously going to affect a draft. Like, Scream was really important with how we played and drafted and did things, so I don't know, we're feeling like optimistic and good, but still realistic.
Okay, optimistic, good, realistic, expects to win, but not too hard from Slaney. Bobby, recently we had hung out, you know. You ate a couple L's in Smash Bros. You ate a couple L's in Mario Strikers. You ate a couple L's in Pickleball. Are you expecting to eat some more L's today?
Unless I'm wait, that wouldn't work. Unless you're playing me, then I wouldn't expect any L's being handed out to him.
Bobby, ever quick on his feet. Just a nice rebuttal from him. Baronic. So, mid lane from console to mid lane to the SPL. Now, still carrying Bobby to this day. How's it feel, man? Have you gotten used to that weight, or is it still like equally as heavy? Has he gotten heavier?
I would say it's plateaued a little bit, but you know, we're still doing our thing. So.
Still doing their thing. The Solar Scarabs cautiously optimistic about their matchup today. I think they're going to need your support. Stick with them.